Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017. I'm joined by BoredGamer and Nubifier. What's going on, guys? How are you?
We're talking about the shape of my head and how it's not natural.
I thought that.
I mean, it's
the
not.
bored egg emote was actually not photoshopped.
It's my natural form.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
its natural, the natural form.
Spam
We were
those
originally-
emotes, ladies and gentlemen. They're free.
We were originally worried that we were going to be talking when you came in.
Like usual.
And then I figured, well, I thought you guys stopped just after I told you guys to get ready. So I don't know if you, I guess you didn't see that, but
I saw it.
okay.
I saw it, but I didn't tell him. I was
Oh.
hoping I would like
I
buddy
see.
fuck him a little bit.
So if you guys in chat want to play
That could never be taken out of context. Wow.
clip that. No,
not
don't.
backwards. Not fuck buddy. Anyways,
Awkward.
You're not helping yourself here.
I know, right?
We can play a game every week in chat where chat can try and work out whether we're going to be talking over Saurus, talking when Saurus comes in.
We need to make. You know what we need to do? We need to make a redacted bingo. We need
Okay, no, that's a good idea.
make some bingo cards or whatever, and then if we hit it or something, we have to do something. Or
Say the audio is out to lunch.
yeah, the audio, you guys talking when we come on.
No,
And somebody goes on a rant.
This is part of bingo. That people in chat are saying that
This is
your
quality
volume's good.
entertainment.
My mic is low. Shall I turn up my mic or can you do that?
I can do it. Do you want to? I just don't want you to be blown out. So you should be okay
Yeah.
now.
How about
Oh, hang
How
on,
about
hang on,
me,
hang on,
chat?
hang on, hang on,
do
hang on.
I?
Is that
do I
that should
please you?
be this should be better for everyone right here. Okay, hang on. Now say something.
Hello.
Hello.
Something.
Something.
Who are the
This
two fat ladies? What
this
is that? Me?
is an audio
and-
test.
Both me?
Bingo cards. Now that the audio's squared away,
Yeah.
What
Well,
were you
is
talking about?
is the audio squared away?
it says much
Volume
better.
is equalised. Good job. Equalised. Perfect. Everyone's fucking happy. There's a thumbs up in chat. That you can't do better than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Bingo.
Well, I can. I can do this.
Wow, that's just a key binding for you. Jeez.
Self-serving. Sorry.
I mean, it makes sense.
Right. Star Citizen. That's a thing, isn't it?
It
Bingo.
is a thing. So before we get into this podcast, while I was making the doc last night and this morning, I realized that a lot of the content that we're going to be covering today has sort of already been covered in one way or another over the last few podcasts, and that's because they're just sort of wrapping everything up. So
Yeah, I mean, we could talk mainly about see the delay with the
yeah,
schedule
well, that
thing.
was the big
We can
thing.
talk about
So
Austin. We can talk about the stats page.
yeah.
And we can talk about some of the VFX stuff, and we can answer a load of questions. But it'll
Right,
probably be
yeah.
a short
Questions.
podcast.
So yeah, it's probably gonna be a short one. If anybody has any questions, exclamation point question in chat.
Help us help you.
Yes. So I guess yeah. First things first, we can talk about the schedule report. Now, this week, most things, not all things, but most things, got pushed out. Not 1 week, but 2 weeks. Making live for Gamescom not going to happen. That also means that it could still get pushed out even more in that time, right? It's not like, okay, we're still on track, or it's pushed out 1 week and whatever. It was pushed out 2 weeks, and I know there were.
That's always a possibility with when we were going to get to Evocati testing anyway.
Yeah.
That was like, is there a blocker? If there's a blocker, there's a blocker.
Yeah, and Soros and I were talking about it before. I mean, even when 2.0 rolled out, they went. I think Evocati went all the way to Zulu, went through all the letters, and this one, like you said, BoredGamer, you could have this thing hit double Zulu because of unknowns, right? Like you can play test it in house all you want. As soon as you throw it out to the internet, it's a whole different game. See what I did there?
Yeah.
But you
So
can-
yeah,
from
so
this-
Evocati could have, if Evocati could have actually pushed this back, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be, upset or whatever. Disappointed, I guess, is a better word, but this is part of it, right? This is part of the game development, and I'm certainly, after tracking it for this long, it doesn't make me happy to know that it's been pushed, but I almost expect it, or I don't get my hopes up.
I mean,
And that's not to say that I'm pissed off.
after
I'm
8
obviously-
months, what's another 2 weeks?
Well, that's That's one way of looking.
I mean,
Just throw another
it's-
log on the
well,
fire.
there's two things exactly that. Like that's not
As long as
actually terrible
it's
thing to
not
say.
perpetual 2 weeks, you know.
As long as it's not Star Marine.
Yeah, no.
right.
If you know it's going to be
Starring
4
2
months,
weeks.
then push it 4 months. Don't
Yeah.
push
Well,
it 2 weeks and push
so
it 2 weeks. And
Genuinely, the thing with the schedule report, as far as I am aware, and as far as CIT are telling us, I do have trust in them with it, is that it is their plans, their internal times for these things. And they do get fucked around with. They do get blockers, they do get changed.
Now let me
But
go.
I'd much rather have this than not have it.
Let me go through the dates here. So Evocati is scheduled to go in as early as tomorrow, which is not going to happen. So 3rd of August until 17th of August as a start time. I'm leaning more towards the latter half of that. PTU is scheduled to go from 18th of August to the 31st of August. Obviously, these will change depending on when things come in and how long they need to
when
stay in
Evocati
for.
starts is pretty much
And
when
how polished
you
things
can,
are.
Yeah, when you
when they
can
come in.
guesstimate where the rest of it will fall, right?
No.
So-
So for me, Evocati has no real correlation
Okay.
when the wider PTU will come.
Fine,
Because
but
if
do
they
you
get a
think
blocker,
that
they get a blocker.
do you think that Evocati is gonna launch clean and then say, okay, boys, we're on second build and it's good to go. We'll release
I
the
think it'll be-
PTU.
No,
I think it'll be
it's unlikely.
still cleaner than even though it has a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah,
Because they are working on final things, they're able to bug test a lot more. I
Right.
think that I could be wrong, but I'm going to imagine that this is going to be maybe more smooth sailing than if obviously we were to get it
Oh,
2 weeks
This
Star
is
ago.
Marine
going to
was
be-
Star Marine
this
was
is going
buggy,
to be
for sure.
This is going to be the cleanest QA release ever.
Mm.
But we have no
Yeah.
fucking clue what's going to be like
When
when,
you
it
put
goes
it
to
in a
multiple
live
networks and
multiplayer
distributed.
environment.
Yeah, there could be millions of different
Yeah.
issues that may or may not happen. We have no fucking idea.
Yeah, we know
And
that
that's the
they've-
problem. That's the problem with these schedules. Is
Right.
that they can plan as much as they want, plan, but there's 8 months to fucking delays.
Yeah.
Because they go, well, we've hit a blocker, and we might as well get all this in now. Oh, well, shit.
And to
So-
be fair, they have been doing some press demos of 3.0 already.
Mhm.
Now, while that once again isn't on a live network environment, that's on an internal build. It
Which
sounds
I
like
saw-
the systems for that are working fairly well.
In an enclosed environment,
Yeah.
that I'm sure that build is amazeballs. But
Mhm.
it's the reason you have the Evocati is to literally go stress test, hardware test,
So
major
I
bugs.
just thought of something. So at SitCon last year, they showed us a developmental build of basically what we're looking at. Obviously, the re-entry and everything wasn't fully fleshed out, but we did have the dude flying Connie, landing, getting out, Ursa rover, and he went did a whole mission and then the worm. So I agree with you. Putting it into context like that, it should or has the potential to be a very clean build because it's been iterated on
Right.
for almost a year, if not more.
But it's still
Right,
gonna, if
but
there's
there's
a
still
blocker, there's a
gonna be-
blocker. We have no when we have no idea. It might be no blockers. It might be
Yeah.
1,000 blockers.
Yeah.
We,
Right.
we have no idea until we actually have it in our hands and a test. And people need to be aware of that on the schedules, and they do make it very clear that is the case. But
Yeah.
I think that we can all be accused of occasionally being very optimistic about dates and occasionally being very pessimistic about it.
Yeah, I've been burnt. I've been burnt before.
Yeah.
I'm still I still see myself as an optimist. I always try to find, the good, or if I look at something, I'll look at it objectively of how much of an accomplishment it was rather than how much further they need to go.
I'm still gonna say a buggy build is better than no build, and
Yeah.
that
At this time, for
know,
sure. Yeah.
it's I don't think we're gonna see it's something like I forget what patch it was, but back when it was like 12-hour streams of me just trying to log in, and you get in every now and then for like a minute, and you would cherish that minute. I think that was when Arena Commander first came out.
1.2.
Yeah, it was like first iteration of Arena Commander.
Hanger module. Just kidding.
No, it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And you get in, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm flying a ship," and then you do another 4
Damn it.
hours of trying to log in. Yeah,
Memories.
pretty crazy. But for me, I had a little thing with my community because it's like, okay, it does keep getting pushed back and back and back. And if it continues to do this and it continues on this sort of getting pushed back, further and further and further as we get what we feel is closer, and now it's getting pushed out further. I was just saying to my community that, there's only so long that or so much of that you can actually do, right? And when it feels like you're getting closer but getting further away at the same time, it's really frustrating, right? So up until recently we were getting 1 week delays, and now right when we think Evocati's any day now or expecting it this weekend, now it's a 2 week delay, right? Yeah. So if 2 weeks comes in and now it's another 2 weeks or another 3 week delay on top of that, it's going to be very, very demoralizing. Now I know there's nothing there's not necessarily anything that they can do about it because it's that's how it goes. I'm just saying what it feels like from someone playing the game, which is obviously a lot of people here.
I can understand that and respect that particular point of view of it is demoralizing to have delays repeated. Because and if you look at the schedule report and you go, 8 months delay, just 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, just 2 more weeks.
Just one more week. Just one more week. Okay, now it's just one more week.
I understand that.
Oh, okay.
And especially
we're getting close. They're showing all kinds of stuff, and then it's like, 2 weeks.
No,
okay.
But for a streamer, it's I can understand it's very a lot worse as a streamer because it's rinse repeat. You said it before. People come to watch you. That's the point. Like it should not necessarily saying it's irrelevant what game you're playing, but your success is based off the streamer, not the game. But it's frustrating if you're trying to be a Star Citizen streamer and you almost have to reinvent your whole channel because the content isn't engaging. Because
right. And I mean, I didn't want to focus that on me or on streaming or anything in particular.
In general.
I just wanted to say the overall mood. If you go to the forums or if you go to the subreddit or whatever, is
people want the build. People want 3.0. People have been waiting for it since like middle of last year. We wanted it as soon as we knew we could go down to planets. And that was the thing. We've wanted 3.0 so hard. And it is occasionally demoralizing. But, again, with the schedule report, I'd rather have it than not. And I'm willing to take the worst of it because of it. I love the schedule report. I know that Squadron 42 is going to be going on the schedule report. I know they're going to be supporting the schedule report with 3.1 or generally most other future releases. So they just need to get a bit better at scheduling. But...
and that's the other thing too. It may not even be an issue with them being better with scheduling. It may just be this is just
maybe
what happens.
Better.
It happens.
You can only explain it so many times, right? Every time it comes out, they're like, "This is a guide. It's a schedule. It's not." And then it always gets blown out of proportion. It's like, oh, you're screwing the community because you're moving dates around. And I mean, like I said, you can only put up a disclaimer so many times before it starts to be redundant.
I think the hope is that this will be the last time we ever have to have this conversation. The hope is that the Delta Patcher comes in. Then it's irrelevant.
I think this is a good discussion because we've heard about the Delta Patcher. We know what the Delta Patcher is capable of. We haven't heard of anything of, this is how we're going to do things moving forward. We're not going to change. We don't know if the patch schedule is going to change. We're assuming we would like it to. But as we go further and not hear anything, it does sort of...
Well, that's saved for Gamescom, isn't it? All of that literally is saved for Gamescom. And anything that's going to make the community happy is there. It's a moral book. It's a moral.
So do you think that if they don't mention that they're going to be releasing patches on a weekly or bi-weekly schedule, even if they're little minor fixes or little assets like hanger flare and stuff here and there, if they don't mention that, do you think it's not coming?
Well, they need to mention in some way or not. They need to make a statement on how they're going to use the Delta Pad.
I mean, the thing is, MMOs historically get patched frequently. Like pretty much every time you log in, it's like boom, updating, and it's like a quickie, and it's done. And you don't even know what it is. I'm sure you could go find out what it is, and you don't even care. You just know that it's newer and better.
And we
I
knew that
definitely
they do that for their internal builds. They literally have new builds or
daily-
multiple builds every day.
yeah.
Right.
And that's good. Like that's I'm not necessarily saying that the community should get a daily build, but for sure, every time they do something that works and doesn't break something, it'd be nice if that would be able to be integrated into the next patch, for example. And then we get away from this whole 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 things, and it just kind of becomes a blur, right?
Of just content coming in
Yeah.
all the time. Now, before we move on to ATV stuff, just another reminder, if you have any questions, !1 question in chat, Anna will post up a link there. Click on that link. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link down below in the description. Click on that and get your questions in for next week. If you're watching this live, the questions are going to be answered today at the end of the podcast. Any questions about myself, Noobifier, BoredGamer, our channels, Star Citizen, whatever, we'll do our best to answer them to the best of our ability. Do please remember that we are not developers. So a lot of the answers we have, unless we know or we have a source for it, it is pure speculation. So this,
Don't ask for nudes.
now everybody's gonna have to
Speculate on them.
Speculate on nudes.
so first things first.
Sorry.
The shops are done, and that is including a rework of the shops in Olisar and things like that. They showed a little bit of that. The big thing that they talked about for this is that buying the individual armor pieces, while we've seen it before, is now fully implemented. So you'll now be able to do mix and match and stuff, and I'm wondering how ridiculous it's gonna look.
I don't think it's going to look that ridiculous, because I don't think you'll be able to mix and match with everything, but you'll be able to do it with clipping.
Like if you get, okay, but what if you do it this way? If you had like the heavy armor for one thing, and then you just took a ridiculous flight helmet.
There'd have to be limits of what you can and can't equip, right? You can.
I don't think so. As long as it fits, it should be fine.
It's supposed to be armor is literally purchasable and equippable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do heavy armors with a light vest.
So challenge accepted. First one to make a stupid armor wins, right?
Well,
Like
first hour, we'll
No.
certainly see everyone's weird masterpieces.
We know that they've been working on the weapon skin stuff, where they're working on weapons customization, armor customization, things like that. How much of the armor customization do you think you're going to be able to do? Do you think that this is going to be just the first round, where you're just going to be able to select your different parts, either for your armor or for your weapons, so being able to swap out? I imagine we're going to be able to swap out sights and things like that coming into 3.0. But do you think that we're going to get any sort of color changing stuff, or what other customization do you think we're going to see with 3.0 that maybe they haven't mentioned? Because they always do that.
First?
They always bring in stuff that they...
Well, we saw a while ago what they had for the character customization of armor. A while ago, like we could change all the explorer suit out, and you could do that. So I'm assuming that we'll just have loads more gadgets and stuff, and that we'll have inventories. I mean, that's going to be the big thing. We'll be able to customize exactly what equipment we've got on us.
what I want to see is if you get damage on your armor, that you go into the store and you're able to buy that new thing rather than getting it repaired. Sometimes things are broken beyond repair or economical repair. Like it costs you $50 to fix it, but it costs you $20 to replace it. And then you can pretty much go to a terminal and almost see what your loadout is, just like you would have your attachment points. And instead of buy, replace.
Right.
And then you're good to go for a small fee. And that would probably be the same time where you could do what you're talking about, which is customize it. But do I think it's coming in this one? I mean, we've seen the demo of the ship paint system. That was, I think, 8 or 9 months ago. So we know that they've been working on it, and they've demoed like a whack of skins already, all the preview art.
Well, they
for
said
that.
the weapon skin specifically was done. Like that system. The UI wasn't done for it.
Well, then it would only come down to the assets themselves rather than the actual system. The system is probably a carryover to ships, over to weapons, over to armor. You know, I would say that they're it's a universal tool. So, I mean, I would love to see it, but again, it's not going to disappoint me if 3.0 comes out and I can't change what
Right.
my armor looks
Right.
like.
And then BoredGamer also brought up an interesting word that we haven't heard about in a while in terms of gadgets. And it's funny because I was talking about this just yesterday. I was doing a little speculation on going through the Spectrum posts and things like that of what people wanted to see in terms of different gadgets and things like that, whether it be shields, the hollow ghost images of your character, turrets, things like that. Now that we know that we have ground turrets and things like that coming in, do you think that we are going to see any of these gadgets coming in with 3.0? We definitely haven't heard about them in quite a while. We know that they still want to do them. We saw some assets for them a while ago. But do you think that
Aaron was getting killed before he could use them in a practice demo ages ago?
The Gauss rifle, I'm expecting to actually see that. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but
well, the weapons, the weapons are in. Yeah, so the shoulder-mounted weapon, that's in. The
and
reworks,
it's a good.
There's a couple other
good against
weapons.
vehicles.
There's an SMG that's coming in, and a couple other weapons as well.
Right,
and they've definitely
Flashbang.
done different. They've definitely done different sights for those new SMGs and stuff.
Right.
They have them ready to go. They've been modelled.
And you're going to be able to
Seen the
switch
function.
those out and all that stuff. All that item 2.0 with the weapons is done. I'm more talking about the gadgets. So that's not something that we have at the moment. It's not the weapons. With the exception of
Portable
maybe
shields,
if they do
claymores,
like
lots of
a
shit.
portable turret or something like that. But yeah, claymores.
I think
shields,
we would have seen it.
The hollow
We would have
things.
seen it if we would have seen a hint of it, of something. They would have announced something about a gadget, or they would have
I think
shown
they
it.
might have already. I think they've done them, but I think they had them all ready before, and they've probably just updated the effects.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And that's what I'm
Not
wondering
100%
is if
sure,
it's something that it was ready to go. They needed to just polish it up a little bit and wanted to work on some Star Marine stuff and make sure that it was all working properly.
but I'd be surprised if they don't have the new ammo types as well.
And what do you mean by new ammo types? Like new ammo types
Well,
for
they're-
different, like one weapon could have up to 3 different ammo types?
Yeah, so explosive and fire ammo and stuff like that for ballistic weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
I know they want to do
think,
that. They've got that planned.
do you think that that would be one of the benefits of a ballistic weapon and maybe not the laser weapons? Kind of
That's
thing?
quite possible. I'm assuming that they're just going to be different. Like laser weapons will have different attachments and different modules you can put on them to do different things.
Because my big thing
ballistic.
with that would be, okay, I would really love to see that. That's something I'd like to see, tracer rounds or whatever, or even adding tracer rounds at the end of your magazine so you know you're running out. But there is a weapon in the game that tells me that it's probably not going to happen, and that's the energy shotgun. And that shotgun shoots ballistic with the the electric effect and
It
whatever.
does 2 different
And I
types of
feel-
damage at the same time.
Right, and I feel like that is very specific, and it's not like you can just change out those rounds to explosive shotgun rounds or to a shell or a slug rather than whatever. So
One way to do that though would be when you're doing your initial loadout, not necessarily changing it on the fly in the game.
Right.
But if you're in your loadout screen, you could say, I opt to take, let's say, grenade rounds, or I opt to take ballistic rounds or armor piercing rounds, and they all have, they're additive and subtractive. They'd have to be balanced, or else everyone would just run meta. But I can see that, and if you go up to the ammo box, you just reload with what you
with what you have,
in your
right?
loadout.
But
Yeah.
so you think that we will still get different round types then?
I mean, the thing is, like in the future, yes. For 3.0, I don't know.
It's something I don't know about 3.0, but it's something I
Yeah.
really want to see. But the
in
big
the
thing
future,
that makes me lean away from it is the electric shotgun. Is like, okay, this is very much
gonna
a
be for
one
every-
type of round, or maybe it could just be
that
for the
might.
normal ballistic
So-
weapons.
They just literally spoke about different weapon ammo types for ships. So if I'm looking back in history, like the laser weapon is similar to the ship-mounted laser weapon. They're following a trend. So it only makes sense that if you give the capability for a ship weapon, then that would port over to your hand weapon. So I do think that's a possibility, and it's definitely, again, there's a limit to how much stuff you can add to the game before it becomes a balanced nightmare. But a game like Battlefield 4, I think, had like 155 different weapons, and you know, they're all slightly different. The game wasn't damaged by it, and it just gave people options. So I say bring it, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Now moving forward, the price fixer is complete, and what this is a database that shows what item is attached to a ship's hull. So if you took a bare hull and took everything off of it, all its thrusters, all its engines, weapons, whatever, it assigns a value to the hull, and then it assigns a value to all of those parts. And then this is what's going to be dynamically updated in game based on trade routes and what's being mined and all of this other stuff for those individual costs of each part. And then those are all put together as a ship. Now this is going to be directly associated with the cost and respawn values, so time and AUEC with 3.0, but also moving forward into the future, this is going to be used for balance. So if there's any ships out there that feel like, okay, you know, this does need better weapons, or it does need a bigger engine or thruster, so they have their sort of point values, I imagine, internally,
and
of
metrics,
and metrics that they want to have these things fixed. So now it's something that, okay, they can directly associate all of this stuff. Now for me, I thought they would have had this on the initial implementation of all of those different items, and they sort of assigned what those items were worth, whether it be, you know, their engines or thrusters or weapons or shields or CPUs, missiles and stuff like that. But that is all done, and that system is working now. So
wouldn't it be cool if that was for like if you were to go up to some guy's ship and steal a thruster or steal a component off the outside, you know, that the value of that item is almost like your indicator of a tradable commodity. So like if you had a Herald, a data module is worth, I don't know, 1,000 credits, but a thruster is only worth whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that,
well, that I mean,
would let you know what to steal or what's valuable.
If you look at, there's games out there where when the currency, and this happens a lot in MMO and multiplayer games, where the currency is on an ever inflating thing, right? Because the way that currency works is there's no end of it. There's no like, okay, this is as much money as there is, and you know, people will hoard that money. You know, game sinks or money sinks won't always get rid of all of that to keep it even. So what happens is games or items become more valuable than the money that they're worth, even though they trade for a certain amount of money. So like you said, maybe something like a good example of that was I think it was the Jade Ring or Jade Idol, or what was it in Diablo 2? That it was like, it was the main thing. It was, or there were like,
it was gems. It was gems in general.
It was gems in general, and there was a jade thing as well. But gems in general were worth more than what they were actually worth to vendor, because they were more of a finite resource, and there was more of a only one way to get them, and so it was a
just
better
like in real life,
currency.
then.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a better currency than the money itself. And do you think that Stone of Jordan, that was it? I don't. That's what I was
Stone
getting
of
at.
Jordan.
The J. Yeah. Remember, Stone of Jordan was like, oh, how much is that armor set? Oh, it's 3 stones of Jordan, or it's whatever. Instead of currency was whatever. So yeah, that could very much be a thing where this particular thruster or this particular engine or this particular shield is really rare.
In the future of Star Citizen, that is not going to be an issue, because the economy is entirely different, because it's not player-led. It's
but maybe
9 NPCs,
maybe in the black
every one
market
player.
Or something.
There
like
will definitely be
there will
stabilized
be stuff like that.
Yeah, there will certainly be a market for more stable goods that are worth more than their real value, if you see what I mean. So the rarity of that good will be a standard.
Like for what I'm saying is, maybe let's say our cart engine or something, right, is worth the 6,000 if you can vendor it, but you can only vendor it in UEE areas. So for a pirate, that's worth more than its currency to hold on to. So you could use that as trading instead of the money.
It's
because
possible ammo or power
things like
supplies
that.
or something like that definitely could, because I suppose when you think about it, anything that's going to have a finite value of time before it gets replaced that everyone constantly needs
Right.
is going to be valued.
It's just
It
really
could be super
interesting.
hornet hulls.
Interesting to think about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff with the way that they're doing the economy and all the items in Star Citizen, because all the items in Star Citizen have to be mined from somewhere essentially first, right? Like with the exception of with the exception
don't.
they don't, but with the exception of the beginning of the game.
Hmm.
So,
No, so-
the game is coming in with the ships already in existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
With places already in existence and a certain stockpile of items already in existence, right? Beyond that, everything else sort of needs to go through that manufacture process to make the economy work.
You're
Right?
just assuming that they don't cheat with their
Well,
economy.
they can.
simulation.
Oh, they can definitely
have to.
cheat it. They can.
Yeah.
They can definitely cheat it, but it's going to affect it quite a bit. Whereas most games don't even have that, and they just cheat the whole thing.
Yeah.
So another point on that though is that that value for the components, I can see that also being used by whatever mechanics or metrics that they decide on how much it costs to fix something. So if you go get your ship fixed by an NPC, it may run right off of that. If you go get a PC, like a normal player, and say, I want you to fix my thruster, he may just go look up on Craigslist and see how much that thing is selling for and say, I'll repair your something for, I don't know, 10% less than what it would cost for a new one, or 30% less, or something like that. I can actually see people making APIs which pull that data right out of the game code and not exploit it, but use it, right? Next level stuff. Because if you take a game like Eve has APIs up the wazoos, and people have been super creative.
Just pictured, like if you watch
Wazoo?
CNN or Fox News or any of those, news/fake news organizations, they along the bottom they have those stock tickers, right? And that would be something that obviously wouldn't be in game, but could be on something like a stream,
For sure.
for example,
For sure.
where you just have the commodities, especially if you're like BoredGamer and you're really into the whatever, you have that API and
Whatever.
well, you know what I mean, the economy
I
or
do.
the stock market for Star Citizen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you have that, and that can update live if they make it available for you to pull that information.
So I'm really interested in price fixing in conjunction with TradeSlayer, their other pricing tool, because if they say they're going to do what they're doing with it, they are going to have a truly dynamic economy. If they don't cheat, although they can cheat, the economy.
Well, they will a little bit.
Well, they need to balance it so that people they don't have edge cases, and they don't have, because they can literally neutralize any edge cases and stuff, because they can just cheat on the economy. They can go, well, we'll adjust it. And they can pretend it's like, if they want to do it in law, they can just say the UAE government have adjusted it or whatever. But and it's 9 NPCs to every 1 human, so they have loads of leeway, and we don't actually have that huge impact on the economy that could have.
Right? Wasn't there a thing when Elite first came out where they did give that info? I don't know if they still give that information out, but I remember that they did give that information out, and everybody sort of had some price checker and what the different stations were and what the things were worth and stuff like that.
You literally get that on Eve. So there's an Eve tracker which tracks the value of ships when they're destroyed and exactly what they have in their cargo base and everything. And you'll see like some guy just going through a really safe checkpoint lost like 300,000 billion ISK because he was transporting a load of cargo that were plexes or something. And I'm like, oh my god, that's like $8,000.
Yeah.
It's melted. Eve does that very well.
Go tell your wife.
But Elite did something like that with all of its commodities, where you were able to track it through their API. Yeah, you were able to track it through the API and see how much it sold for different stations and stuff like that. So live, you could have on a second monitor this program that basically said, okay, it would show it was like a whole separate game. It would show what would make you the most money for the shortest travel times, and what made sense to buy and what quantities and things like that.
And it's more realistic too, because that's actually what happens in real life. Like
I
people
think
are always looking for, the where to sell it, You know, is it worth me putting all that crap into a truck and driving it across Canada to sell for twice what it's worth in Montreal, for example? You know, like
Yeah.
it's kind of it's good. And again, it's like you say, it's another level of gameplay. And I know some people that they don't want to fly, they don't want to do anything, but they still want to be a Star Citizen. And I can see that, you know, your crew member is like Yoda for where to sell stuff, and he just shoots you coordinates. I got a drop off for you from what's in the hull. It's worth 50% more if you go there. Move now, out. Finished.
Well,
right?
I think that we all well, I certainly expect the economy to be like that. I expect that either the tools there to be able to make something with an API, or it just be an in-game feature that you can see all the stats and everything around everywhere,
Yeah.
so you know where to go. And that form of information is incredibly important to traders, but also pirates, who then use that to work out where to quantum interdict traders.
Yeah,
Right.
and where
Okay.
people
Yeah.
are going to be.
What trade routes are gonna be the most
Yeah.
active, because that's where people where the money's gonna be.
Exactly.
Board has shrunk. Yes. He's gotten
I
smaller.
gotta see this.
And
gotta look.
he's like he's just sort of
Wow.
slinking slowly out of the scene. Yeah, guys, this is it right now. We're
Let me
just
check.
gonna
Let everyone do the same thing.
do the podcast like this now.
Just the head, just the top of the head.
Yeah,
Well, I was relaxing.
just getting comfortable.
Okay.
Just getting
Don't
comfortable.
relax.
Come on.
This is serious shit.
Well, you can be relaxed and do serious shit. I'm relaxed as Star Citizen. Okay.
So Miles Eckhart has been finalized with all the animations and dialogue for missions, and all of that stuff. It looks really good.
Brian
They
Warren has
mentioned
been polished so much that I'm going to go blind when I see him.
The mannerisms are cool. Like even his hand gestures are very subtle and everything. It's looking at it. You know, you always see an AI character. You're like, yeah, it's AI. And I'm not saying that he's fully photorealistic, believable, but he's like one of the best that I've seen. His mannerisms are really good, and even the Mark Hamill, the little bit there where they showed him in the cockpit talking to, I guess, the screen. The way his eyes were moving and everything, it looked real because it was real. It was so, it was exciting.
Well, they mentioned feather blending, and there's another section where they talk about this as well, where they take the mocap information, right, and then they also take the animator who like hand animates stuff, and then they basically feather blend those things together so that it's doing exactly what the animator wants to do, but keeping all the subtleties and everything of the facial movements,
Right.
of the individual finger movements and hands. And like when he turns his hand over, instead of it just being his hand or his wrist, it's like you see it even in his upper arm, these minor little subtle changes. And then, yeah, obviously we've seen when they did like the liquid simulation and stuff like that for his glass and all of that other stuff. I don't like his Moby glass though. I do.
So
have to mention
no
that.
dolphin diving like in Battlefield 2.
I don't know what that is.
So the guy's like walking around, and you know, like the animation is so jerky because they don't have time. The character moves so fast that the animations can't keep up. So the guy just looks like a blur. He doesn't even look realistic. And that's what you're talking about, is the feathering the correct physics and animation together with the motion that the player is doing. So yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, so they also did that with some of the NPCs, and they were also talking about the wild lines. And wild lines are basically
Everything that NPCs say.
anything that NPCs say that aren't towards a specific mission or aren't scripted per se. So you know when it's like, you know, looking good. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, cheering in the audience and stuff like that. So a whole bunch of different ones of those that are they don't want people to see patterns as much
Hopefully
as possible.
thousands. Thousands of them. Because I've been in a game
Or
like
just
that where
like
you're just standing
minor-
next to something and it says the same thing over and over
Or you look
again.
at the
and you're
crowd,
like, wow.
and it's 100 people, but there's only
Yeah.
5 different cheers. So you all see the same people, like, yeah, doing this exact same animation, and it's like they're connected.
Broken.
Or
Immersion
whatever.
is broken.
yeah, my man.
Well, I wonder if we're going to get something else other than... Is it the Wilhelm scream that's used regularly? Hopefully they've got pages and pages of different death screams.
Yes.
I could use mine once.
Stop tickling,
Oh no!
Yeah.
You got me!
bastard.
Then the initial external passes on the Cutlass Red and Blue have been started on the rework. We did see a little preview of that. I think it was last week or the week before that Sandy posted of the blue. But once that's done, they're not doing the full red and blue right away. They are going to be starting to work on the color or the Constellation Phoenix.
That's a ship that's been like one of the originals. That's one of the oldest ones, and I'm actually, I don't own one, but I know for all the people that have basically had melted, unmelted, melted for the last 4 years, that's one ship that would be really nice to see an engine finally.
And they also mentioned that they're working on a promo video for the Constellation Aquila. Now, do we think that this is going to be like a throwback to their ship commercials? And if so, if they start doing the ship commercials, do you think that they're going to rework the ones that are already done?
Well, let's face it, if they do an Aquila one, then it is a rework. Because they've already got one.
Yeah, that's the original one that's landing. Yeah. It's still a good commercial. Like it's
like will they just
4 years old?
Redo that though with the new PBR, with the new models?
I hope not.
With the new planet side stuff.
Well, I'd like to see all ship commercials done 100%.
100% in engine, yeah.
100% in engine. That's what I'm expecting from every new ship.
Yeah.
They can do it. They've got all the tech there now.
I guess the question was, would I like to see a new version of the same exact script? And to that answer, I say no, because I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't think it's not gonna do anything. It's just putting polish, like you say, on something that is already good. I would prefer to see a whole new script, maybe a new, not necessarily storyline, but something that shows you how that ship is actually going to get used, rather than just landing on a planet.
I think a lot of people would feel like it's a waste of their time to do it. Like, it's great to have those ship commercials for later in the game's release, to have them playing on that render to texture tech, to have them in shops to give them more detail and stuff. And if those people can't be doing anything else, or it's the best priority for those people to be doing those commercials, great. I don't know exactly. There's fucking millions of fucking stuff, and I don't know exactly who does what anymore. But if there's something else they could be doing, like building more ships or building systems for games or even doing planet tech and stuff, then I'd rather them be doing that.
Well, make a commercial for the Prospector, something that hasn't been done yet. Make a commercial for the Razor, something that hasn't been done yet. You know, like you have a bunch of ships already have commercials done, and that's fine. The new Cutlass, old Cutlass, I don't even want them to make a new commercial for the Cutlass, because again, like you say, it seems like a waste. I'd like to see commercials for new stuff, not necessarily even stuff that's on concept, but just stuff that we have seen in as a commercial or as a picture, not a fully fleshed out video, for example.
Right.
Would you be okay with them showing IRL, like videos they've done, like with Matt Sherman talking about in character about redesigning the cut? Would you be cool with them showing that in game?
Don't like those.
Okay, a lot of people don't.
The reason I don't like it is it feels like it pulls away from all of the, especially with what CIG is doing, because there's still, it's not perfect, right? So you can still tell the difference between an asset and an actual video. And while that was cool in the early 90s for those those full motion videos and stuff,
fucking great games.
And that's, Chris was the pioneer of that, right, with Wing Commander and everything.
And even right,
but
Conquer.
Yeah, things like that. But for me, it takes it out of it. I don't really like it. I think that if you're gonna get commercials, if you're gonna get all of that stuff, it does look better when it feels like it's in the same universe. It's
they do have the tech to literally do any performance on an in-game rig.
I feel like, so my thing is they can always go less, but they can never go more. So if you're watching a scene in game of somebody watching a TV, okay, the TV should not be able to display a nicer version of whatever the real life scene is. So that being said, you could watch cartoons right? So if you had a real life scene, it's a full real life scene, then it can show CGI, it can show cartoons, whatever. If you have if you have CGI screen, then you throw in that live scene, it feels weird. I don't know. There's something about it. It just sort of throws me off.
No. I totally agree with you. It's an odd bridge. I was just like, they might do some interesting ads because they might want to get revenue that way by advertising.
Right. But if they were going to do that, why wouldn't they just mocap it?
Well, it would have to be mocapped, or as
like all the rigs are done, right?
Yeah, all the rigs literally do any performance.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to mocap it.
You don't. Yeah.
You can use hand key for the hand motions, and the performance of the faces will look great on anyone. Because like Miles Eckhart's head, that the Pete's face isn't the same voice. The actor doing his voice.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like they can do so much now. So.
Yeah, it's like watching a cartoon. Like a good example of this, I think, is SpongeBob. I think has done this, where it's like you have it's a cartoon the whole time, and then they have like real life video sections of it. I don't know what cartoons do that, but whenever they do that, it really throws me out, and it's like, ugh, I would rather you. Well, that's a little bit different.
That's a bit extreme. Yeah,
that's a little bit different, but the way that like if you have a animated series that's always animated, and then on the TV they show real life stuff, it's like, it's weird.
No, I agree with you. What's in universe should look like universe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if the guy's watching a commercial, if you're in a bar or looking at a screen that's advertising something, it should look exactly like it is if you'd seen it in real, like in person, in game.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Just checking.
Now we were talking about the Evocati and PTU and all that other stuff, obviously, and they just confirmed it with this, that they are growing the Evocati and the PTU lists for 3.0. I assume that's already done, right? Or do you think that they're still adding people now?
I'd expect to see when the first wave of like a few hours before the first wave of Kite PTU testers go out, that some people might be getting.
You cut out for the last section there,
and you're really short too.
Yeah,
you're like way down.
I would hold your breath, but not for too long. Hold your breath because you might get them even up to like an hour before they go live.
Yeah. So if there's anybody who has really been working hard trying to get that Evocati or PTU access, it is a possibility still. And then network stuff with the new hardware, servers, and diffusion services ready for 3.0.
Yeah, so for people that are worried about network stuff, they are constantly improving the network code for Star Citizen. We're not going to have the great object container streaming until the next.
Yeah, the major stuff isn't really coming in yet. They did just update Yojimbo like a week and a half ago.
Libujimbo, yeah.
Yeah, which is the network network protocol library, and so other stuff. So they will hopefully be integrating this stuff. And now the thing with this is some of the network stuff can be updated over time without having to put out a patch to the client side stuff. And I'm wondering that if that is true now, if it's going to be true with 3.0, or if it is going to be true with a future patch beyond that. What do you think? Do you think that there are network improvements that they can make without having to update the client, say when 3.0 comes out? Or do you think that we will have to wait for, because we know they want to do everything more server side, less client side. And they've said that a lot of that stuff is coming in with 3.0. So do you think that that's the case with 3.0? Do you think that they're going to be able to make network improvements on just their side without having to release patches to us?
I mean, I think we'll definitely see stuff like that. I mean, they're trying to improve the server hardware. They're breaking down the diffusion services. They're constantly improving the server side stuff. We don't know until we get into our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it is on AWS, so it's scalable by design. They've split it up into the 3 areas right now, which it was a stopgap. I get it. Like, I understand. Ideally, the end state is everyone's on one collective shared server, and we're nowhere near that.
Right.
So in the meantime,
With good frame
I
rates
am,
and everything.
with good frame rates, so like economy of all that. I originally, when I first heard it, I was disappointed that they were splitting, but it makes the game better for everyone, right? It's not a representation of what the future is, but at least it gives you Star Citizen, Star Marine, where the guy's not doing Michael Jackson moonwalk just because he lives in Australia or
Right.
China or some other place. I mean, at least that was the intent. But then you also had the double-edged sword of that, where your 1/3 of the population is in your server, and now you have difficulty starting a game. So I don't know. I very much like the idea of adding improving network, and I do think they can do it on the back end without interruption, because it would be a flick of a switch or a global reset, and everyone would get kicked out and come back in, and it could technically be flashed new, just like they're doing with Spectrum. Spectrum patches, you don't even know they're arriving. You just look at the number and it's different.
Yeah.
So I can see that type of iteration on the back end as well, that you don't even know that the client's been updated.
Now, moving forward, they talked about the Cyclone for quite a bit. And we also had a Q&A released, right, for the Cyclone. Is there anything that you guys want to go over with that information? This isn't something I have any notes for here, but if you guys have any anything you want to go over with what they talked about in the ship shape or with the Q&A?
I mean, it's going to fit in every ship that can fit in Urza. It is a bit smaller, so it could potentially fit in some other ships, such as the Freelancer Max. We'll experiment with that when we get into it.
Yeah, and as a content creator, that was the one frustrating thing that I always saw. Like, so example, you make a video, they say specifically it will not fit into this, or it may fit, but it won't be transportable safely. And then you make a video that reiterates that, and then the community is like, well, I'm going to shove it into Cutlass anyways. You know, like, screw you, CIG. I'm going to do what I want, which is fine. But then those same people, they're going to be flying a Quantum, and their buggy's going to bugger off, clip through the hull, just because it's Benny's machine and not like a vehicle. What I really, so this is it.
Well, they said that all that stuff is done. All the objects on different physics grids and ships parking and other ships and all of that stuff. Stuff is done.
I love the fact that we're getting Q&As, and I do love the fact that the most voted questions are coming from Spectrum, and those are the ones that are getting answered. Fantastic. I guess, and it's self-regulating, because I was a little bit upset that one question that I really wanted to ask, which was, is there a difference in size between the Freelancer Max? Just like BG said, you know, the normal Freelancer, the Freelancer Max is larger. It's going through a rework. Would it be possible, when they do the rework, to make it physically wider so the ramp and everything would hold that vehicle and an Ursa, making that vehicle unique even amongst its own brand, right? Like, that one vehicle is big enough that it'll transport.
Well, it was under my assumption when they, first sort of let everybody know what the Freelancer Max was that it was a unique hull that just happened to be shaped similar to the normal Freelancer.
Right. But then the question is, okay, well, you say it's not going to fit in a Freelancer, but what about the Freelancer Max? And that one question was asked, but it didn't get voted up like the other ones, there were two questions that were similar, which was frustrating. And again, I guess there's two ways of looking at it. CIG could just take the first 10 questions and run with it, which is what they're supposed to do, or use a little bit of discretion and common sense of the questions. They go down and they say, well, this question is almost the same. We're going to skip it and go down this one. The community probably would like to know more than that. And again, this is that whole
I can see it from their perspective as well, when you're looking at every specific variation and all of this stuff, and people are, there are a lot of unrealistic stuff, so it's hard for them to necessarily go through and be like, okay, well, this one is something. And I still think
that that's a small piece of
it. And even then, they may not know. We don't know what the Freelancer Max hasn't been worked on.
I would just like to know what they envision it fitting in, or give me the dimensions of the vehicle from fronts, so I can and the
Well, they have given
cargo
the dimensions
spaces.
of the tumbrel.
It's so simple. It's so simple than like more simple than that. They could just say, "We will make it fit in a Freelancer Max." That will
But I
be-
don't think
that's
that
the-
they may not
No,
know
but-
whether they're going to do that or not.
They don't know.
But what
because
what
it's-
BoredGamer's saying is by saying what they envision it for.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why they couldn't say.
I think
Yes, it
I
will.
think they did the best all-around answer by giving what the dimensions of the ship were.
Yeah.
And then so with the ships that we have now and that are finalized, we have an idea. So we know, for example, it can fit in a Cutlass, but it's
Yeah, but it
probably
won't
not
be
going to go
transported.
up through the ramp, right? But
As soon as we
if
have
you
the new
if you
stats
find a
page.
way, if
drive it
the thing
really
is,
fast.
well, no, if you find a way to back your Cutlass up to some cliffside or something, you might be
Yeah.
able to jank it in there and get it in there,
But then
right?
you still won't be able to maglock it to the floor.
You might
Well,
be
sure you
able-
would.
that's the thing,
Sure
like,
you would.
So some of those
The
ships
systems
have enough
are
cargo
universal
space.
for that.
As long as it's got enough cargo space and you can get it in,
Right.
maglock it.
It
It's
would
just
be
some of
able to
the
be locked in.
doorways
The doorways
specifically are too small.
won't accommodate it. So
But then
I mean,
at that point, it's a compromise, anyways.
Right.
And a person who's trying to do that,
But
rather
what
than
I'm
spending
saying-
an hour of, getting that position, should just go get the right ship. I know
right.
that sounds
So
like super
what
lazy,
what I'm saying is, they did the best that they can do right now by giving the dimensions of the vehicle, and knowing the dimensions of the vehicles that we have, and they did specifically say that while it would fit in the back of this or this ship,
Cutlass,
that
yeah.
it's not going to be able to go up because of this reason. But
I'm
the size
hoping-
dimensions make it fit.
Which
I'm
means that
hoping
they've
on
tried
the new
it.
stats page. I'm hoping on the new stats page we get the apertures of each of those doorways as well.
Mm-hmm.
So cargo ramp, aperture size,
Yeah.
the dimensions. Then I can go, bam, these vehicles go there, and I'll make my own prettier version of that.
That's actually really slick.
But yeah, so if you want to check out the Tumbrel Q&A, that's up on the Robert Space Industries website.
Well, it's worth it because it's got the first anti-air vehicle
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen. The first thing that
And-
bridges combined
And
arms.
both of us have videos on it as well. If you don't like reading,
If you're so
Fucking everyone has a
inclined.
video. Obviously, me and Noob Fire and some of the other redacted content creators are clearly the best, but
No
there's plenty of
biases
stuff and
here.
content out there.
opinions may vary.
Okay, so moving on to the sub town hall for the VFX guys. One was a weapons specific and one was ship specific. Although they did say that they do dabble in other things. Obviously, depending on what needs to get done, they will be given other things to get done. The first thing here that now Nubify, you put these notes in here, was something that we sort of weren't really sure on. So I interpreted it in a different way, and I could have been totally wrong, or I may just not remember properly or something. But basically, weapon effects are going to go back to being per manufacturer instead of per weapon type. And that'll be identifiable from a distance. But for whatever reason, I remember them specifically talking about neutron cannons and how all neutron cannons will look the same. But I
I
could
think it's a mixture of the two. So
Be
I think
wrong.
that typically neutron cannons will have this, but manufacturers will also have their own little quirks or smoke or way of discharging or whatever. So
Right.
you'll have a
Flash
mixture
when it
of the two.
releases or something.
and so you'll be
You'll
able
have a
to
mixture of
tell
the two.
what sort of weapons are being shot in a distance, whether it's being shot at you or shot at somebody else.
I think if
and
you're
what
well
you-
trained enough, yeah, you probably can. You better go. I know exactly what weapon that is at like the maximum possible level of detail.
Oh, it's
far
the
away.
classic Cobra versus GI Joe thing where you see like blue and red lasers going pew 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 pew.
Mhm.
You know, like it's the same idea. I would love to be able to, if I'm going head to head in someone and he starts shooting at me, and I know the type of weapon that he's firing, just like the original X-wing game. You know, the neutron cannon was a different color, or the ion cannon was a different color, and the lasers were red. You know, you knew if the guy was trying to disable you or if he was trying to kill you based on what was incoming. And I think that, again, risk reward, skill payout, is all that good stuff. It all adds up. If I can see a contrail on a ship very far away, and I know that it's slightly red or slightly blue, and I know that that's a freelancer, or if it's a saber or something, just from the distance, forget the scanner and all the other stuff. This is all this is all value added. And yeah, it might sound like minutia, but the minutia is what makes this game unique and special, is that that level of detail that we're not used to seeing in anything. A pore, you know, like the blood vessels in a person's eyeball. It's all crazy stuff, and it all adds up to immersion and good gameplay. So personally, if they were to make the weapons, you know, like remember the Omnisky where it was green, you had the bearing were green, and you had like the repeaters,
and all the badgers and
were red.
panthers and bulldogs
Were red.
were red. Yeah.
Right, so if I see red, you know, like I know that guy's firing a badger at me, or if I see a green, then I know it's a Omni, and I may know that my shield will take a badger but not take an Omni, for example. This is all the kind of stuff that I was saying
you
about
could
the
you could
skill.
even extrapolate on that. How would you know what the size difference is? Because maybe your ship can take a badger or bulldog, but it can't take a panther, or if they make larger size.
You'll know by rate of fire. You'll know by lots of different. So I think that's
how fast you blow up.
yeah, how quickly you die.
That's the best.
That was a badger. But yeah, I think that's cool.
And talking about knowing things from looking at them, ship engines are also going to be identifiable from by brand, even from a distance. Now, this actually brings up something. For example, we just recently, quote unquote, got the Caterpillar, right, with 2.6. And with the Caterpillar, you can see those big engines in the back. Now, I don't know if the Caterpillar was built in design with this, and Matt Sherman's in chat. I don't know if he's able to answer this question or not. But is it already built in where you can swap out those different things, and you're going to see the different engines in there? Right now, we have those big ass yellow Caterpillar, the
Just
real life
fire.
construction brand. That's what they look like, those kind of things. But if you went and put in like an Arcart or something like that, or some big giant race engines in there, obviously that would look a lot different. And that's an extreme example where you can actually walk in the engine room and it's nice and large. Same thing with the Starfare. You have that big engine room with the engine in there. Are those already done and built and ready for those systems, or do we need to see reworks of these ships again?
No, we shouldn't need to see new reworks for the stuff. I mean, as far
For
as I'm
the
aware,
in terms of assets,
as far as I'm
you
aware,
think this is something that'll be able to plug and unplug?
Yeah, well, for most of them, I'm not entirely sure with thrusters and engines. I think there's going to be lots and lots of proprietary or very few limited changes you can make.
No,
to
that
engines for
and
certain hulls.
I want to be clear. I'm not saying that we're gonna get this for 3.0. I'm not assuming that. I'm just wondering if we're gonna have to see reworks of some of the ships. Some of the ships we know we need reworks anyways, and so that's not a problem because they're gonna get reworked. But I'm talking about some of the more recent ships like the Starfare, the Caterpillar.
As far as I'm aware,
So
the conversion to
Constellation.
Item 2.0 is ready for all of that shit for the future.
Right. So are you talking about like if I had a Starfare and I went and bought a new engine for it, that I would go in the engine room and it would look completely different?
Yes.
It wouldn't clip through and everything like that. Well,
Well, no,
when they
because
built
the
Connie-
engine sizes are, and that's what I'm saying is it's not they have the engine metrics that I think they already were going by when they were building those ships.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about having the actual hard point there and having the assets that are detachable. I don't know if those assets are detachable, if they have to go in and actually do that, much like they have to do with all the landing gear for all the ships. We know that they have to do that. Right.
So for like the Constellation, when they remade the Constellation, they broke it down into 4 unique sections, and the whole point was once they got the metrics, once they got the shape of where that joins happens, and the Caterpillar is a perfect example of that. You take that standard cube, the 4 cubes, and as long as you don't deviate from that shape, you can not necessarily do anything you want inside.
Right, but that could already have the hard points built into it, is what I'm saying.
And what I'm saying
Whereas
is the
these
engine
might
room
not.
of the Caterpillar, that space for the engine may already be delineated, broken down, and known as a thing. So if you go buy, let's say, a brand new engine for your Caterpillar, it's not
Of a
just like
specific
magically
size.
boom,
Yeah.
of that size, then it'll be compatible and it'll fit, and all the pipes, and it'll just like all the pipes go to the same place, all the conduits go to the same place,
So
and it just works.
Basically what I'm saying is if you put let's say a larger version of the M50 Ferrari engine in your Caterpillar, right? And you go on the back, you see these bright red, polished, shiny engines,
that's what
as opposed to these construction, industrial-looking things. Or and that can be extrapolated beyond engines, because we know that we're going to see different components for CPU and radar and all this other stuff that are going to have at least a visible panel. I'm just wanting to know if the hard points are already made for those, or if they need to go, and if those assets are already sort of baked into the ship, or if they need to go in and cut those out separately and then redo them.
For a lot of it as well, Saurus, I mean, for maybe for engines and for shields and for a lot of those things, it's just going to be a big fucking block. It's going to change a
right. I know,
but
maybe you don't understand what I'm saying.
No, I do. You're saying that
I think that they're baked in.
It's in the M50. The M50 engine, you're saying if I elected to get that engine in an appropriate size and drop it in, is it possible to pull the other engine out and put, like, visually put that new engine in there and have it all work out? Is that done already, or is that something that still needs to be reworked?
That's not really what I'm asking. What I'm asking is if the assets for the engines are baked into the rest of the ship, or if they're a separate asset,
they could be broken apart.
So if they need to go in and do all the reworks again for the damage states and for all that other stuff,
I understand.
to put these in, even with those newer ships.
When I did the pipeline video a long time ago, actually, the example was the Vanguard. They built the whole model of the Vanguard, and then they broke individual parts off, like the wings that needs to articulate, the landing gear that needs to articulate. They were able to break off sections and then move and animate those. And then he was even talking about adding the stress of the sweep and everything. So I don't see this being any different than what you're talking about, which is isolate that asset. And it doesn't have to be an engine. It could be the table in the galley. It could be chairs, it could be anything. Take that asset and say you are one asset, and then poof, and then replace it with something.
That's what I'm saying.
Else.
And Matt Sherman is answering the basic question of when you switch things, you're going to see them. That's not what my question is. My question is, are those ships already prepared for those systems to come into place?
Right.
And I don't know. We know that some of the ships need to be reworked because those systems aren't in place for them. Right, we know that a lot of the ships that are newer are still going to need some of those upgrades for that, and it's going to obviously be easier for the smaller ships than the newer ships. Obviously, any new ships coming in, I imagine, will come in with those things coming in now that we have item 2.0 and all that other stuff. But in terms of those two larger specific ships, or three really, the Constellation, the Starfarer, and the Caterpillar, I just want to know if that's something we know they need to go in and rework them for the landing gear, or they've already done that anyways. I just want to know if those assets are baked in, or if they have to go in and sort of slice them out, and then they basically have to model like what it looks like without the engine in there, right? So when then another engine comes in and it doesn't cover the exact same footprint, there's a little nudge out of it, it doesn't look out of place. That's all I'm asking. And that would affect our next thing, which was the interior damage visual effects states, which will be unique based on manufacturer. Now, Noob, you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. So, basically, with regards to that, the way I see it is the interior of a Drake ship, when it takes damage, in this video, you've got the fire and you've got the water absolutely just pissing out of the engine, and everything is like very, very, you got steam in that. Whereas you go look, and a while ago, we got the Retaliator damage state video where you could see the lights running down the floor, and there was fire hovering over the floor and fire billowing on the ceiling. So different ship manufacturer, what we got out of the VFX thing was that they're trying very hard to make that when a particular ship takes damage, it has a look and feel bespoke to its company name. So Banu Merchantman taking damage is not going to look like a Drake Caterpillar with all the fire or anything. You may see plasma, you may see lightning bolts and stuff like that instead, like reminiscent of the Javelin demo that came out 8 months ago. The internal damage states of that, it's like the electrical shocks and everything. So different ambience for different ships. And again, it seems excessive until you see it work, and then you're like, damn it, that looks great, and then we need it. You know, it's I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, it looks good. I mean, we've seen a lot of the different damage states, and they've always looked amazing. But it's just nice for them to talk about how they approach each sort of different ship or manufacturer. And this goes back into sort of what we were just talking about, is we saw an engine here that took damage, right? I assume that those damage states are associated with that specific component and not the ship. Because if you had a different engine in there, it would look different with sprays of water coming out of somewhere wrong.
I was hoping that we were going to see a selection of different damage states from every manufacturer. Like that's what I was hoping to see there. I know that would have been probably a little bit too much.
It may also be trying to hammer down the whole tool set and then go from there. I'm again not developer, but someone is.
The next thing was a question I actually got in through the subscriber thing. So they do answer your subscriber questions, which were footprints and tracks and stuff like that. Now, as of 3.0 and right now, they are just based on, like every other game, right? You walk 10 feet or 20 feet or something, and then they just sort of fade away. But they want to make this into a special decal handler where, depending on the traffic of the area, so say in we'll use a snowy biome like Microtech. So let's say Microtech City, right, has thousands of people walking around it. Those footprints are going to last as long as someone on the other side of the planet out in the middle of nowhere in some giant snowy field driving around. Those tracks will persist for a much longer time. And this is something I've wanted to see in a game for a really long time, a multiplayer game specifically, is having those persistent tracks, having those persistent things. So it tells its own narrative, it tells its own story. You can see what this person was doing, especially if you're bounty hunting someone, or if you have to track something down, or if it's part of a mission or something like that. Having to actually track this person down the most basic way you can by following their footprints or following their vehicle tracks or whatever.
For animals as well.
That could be
game hunting on planets.
How you could find some hidden outposts. That could be once player housing or bases that are able to be built come in later on.
The guy home.
You can literally, keep him out of sight, but follow the tracks home.
I mean, the first thing I'm doing when Star Citizen releases is murdering one of every animal.
You need those trophies, right?
But then you'd also get into the deception plan thing. Like if you think you're being followed, you would purposely take the long route or do what people do in real life, which is run down a stream so that you're not leaving footprints, right? Okay, so this is
the other thing too is you could also take weather into effect, right? Whether it's raining or you have those sandstorms or whatever that just wipe them clean.
So, I mean, last time I got in, I did a video about eating, breathing, and dying in Star Citizen, the survival mechanics. And half the community was like, yeah, bring it. I want Daisy. I want Rust. And the other guys are like, I don't want to be pooping in bags in a ship. I want to just fly my spaceship. So it's this is getting back down to that thing of when is too much, right? Like the footprints are great and all of everything that is what it means, I guess, is what I'm looking for. That you have to now, not only do you have to think about, your cargo and your weapons and all the other stuff that we already have to think about. Now you're thinking, my God, are my footprints leaving a trail where I can be bounty hunted or exploited somehow? So it's,
I mean, to be fair, the analogy to the toilet, I think there's more gameplay with it, especially with full. What I'm saying is I don't think the analogy of the toilet is a valid one. Because with the footprints have actual effect on some of the mechanics and some of the major roles in the game. Where a toilet, you're not going to be. There's no. It's not you're not a sanitary worker that has to go fill or empty out people's shitters, right? Whereas with a bounty hunter or police officer or UEE or whatever, they can actually track those.
There's gameplay possibility. There's real
or even exploration. Right, it's like
feet, not toilets.
Exploration, you can 100%. See. Oh my God! There's these giant tracks of an animal I've never seen before. I'm gonna follow them.
But it makes other ships, it makes other ground vehicles much more appealing than others sometimes. So, for example, your Tumbrel leaves big track marks that goes around, but you could have your Nox, which have gravlevs, which is. Well, it might have a little bit of trail on the ground because it does.
Or maybe even with your Tumbrel, you use different tires or different wheels or something. If that's They did
Yeah.
show that in the concept, right? So maybe instead of those giant ones that dig into the ground, you have like a smoother one that doesn't.
I'm not sure if they were different wheels or if they were deployed.
Right.
It mentioned in the Q&A that it was deployable. So I'm
Right.
assuming it's a press of a button.
I'm just
like
going by the
Mass Effect
concept.
Andromeda.
All
Yeah,
right,
no, but
okay,
I like
sure.
what he's saying because like it's like you have a choice. You could take the Nox or you could take the Tumbrel, and it gives you advantages and disadvantages. And the advantage is that you're less detectable, right? You won't be able to. you
But
won't be
maybe
able to
your
carry the
heat
turret
signatures and
or an
IR
extra-
signatures
and
are higher with the Nox as opposed to the Tumbrel.
and they confirmed that that was a thing. They specifically said that in the Q&A that you would be more detectable because you're having the hover, but you would maybe not leave a footprint. So again, fantastic. Like that level,
That's
I
good
don't
gameplay.
mind. When
Yeah.
we start to get into this whole minutia of footprints and walking through rivers and shit, like that's
Right.
we're
If you're
starting to
doing,
be
but if you're
from.
doing that, I think that's
Yeah,
great.
it's fun.
If you're fucking around in a river because you know someone might be tracking you, or if you just want it for a role play, or if players are
don't-
doing mods, which is PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, but in the on a star system,
Especially a
fucking
game mode
great,
like that,
great.
or Star
Yeah.
Submarine or something.
Winner takes all mode.
I would prefer footprints over radar.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Hands
Okay,
down.
100%, 100% with that.
Yeah.
So and this is the thing is like it's just the balance. I would love like people can say, oh, we should add this and this and this and this, and we discussed it before podcast. That when you do that, you don't even realize how much extra stuff needs to be done.
Once
to
again,
make
it
that
really
work.
depends on what their systems are in place that are
Right.
going to do this, right? It sounds like they have figured out a way that they can make them persist for much longer than normal games can. And if that's the case, then awesome. And if it's not a
footprints.
lot of work and they're able to do it and it's the VFX guys and they're kind of done with whatever else the VFX guys work on, then it's not taking away from building ships or building locations or whatever, then I say,
Bring it.
let the workers work.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on.
The contrails and engine trails. These are going to be changed based on environment. So whether it's in atmosphere or if it's in space. And one of the things they didn't really mention was if the contrails are going to change, and I don't think this is the case, but if they'll change whether they're based in an oxygen atmosphere or an acidic atmosphere or something like
That's
that.
that's
I
what
imagine-
they want. They want subtle changes.
But I think that they would be able to do that the same way that they do the atmospheres themselves, where it's just sort of based on
a shader.
the shaders, right? So it's not like they have to go in and make the individual contrails. They just
No,
show how the
tweaking.
contrails
Yeah.
act in those spaces, and then they take on the properties of whatever that environment is. I don't know if that's the case or not.
I wanted to make a point on that. I got some questions in my chat about it, and people are very either they love it or they say, well, it's that balance between real and looks cool factor. So people are genuinely hesitant to say yes, it looks cool, so I like it. But the videos that people are seeing about the contrails aren't the final. Like I can't stress enough. If I wanted to make something and see how the physics work, I'm not going to make it faint and everything. I'm going to make it glow green or
Bold.
red so that as a developer, I can watch it, how it interacts clearly and see the whole trail. And then once I'm happy with that physics, then I would make it look the way I want it to look. So please, people don't freak out if you see fluorescent green contrails coming out of a developer's screen when he's working on it. That doesn't mean that that's what the end state that we're going for. It could just look like a little cloud coming out of something by the time it's done. And if it isn't,
Or maybe they
and
could
you
throw
see
that
it,
on race engines or something, or
that would be awesome.
Who knows?
Just like Tron bikes. But what I'm saying is, even if worst case scenario, it comes out and you don't like what it looks like, then tell someone. Tell me, I'll make a video about it.
Yep. Open development. For
yeah, I mean, there's
purpose.
a lot of things where where the community actually agrees on something and they come together and do stuff.
Yeah.
Then it makes CIG go back and look at it. A perfect example is a ship that's coming in 3.0, right? The Cutlass, whereas
So badass.
you raise enough stink about something, or you give enough feedback in a positive way and saying, fuck this fucking sucks, right?
Constructive.
Then, and you're able to be constructive with it, then
Yeah.
CIG is definitely going to take a look at it, and they have a history of doing that already. Also, they have the shoulder mount. They were showing the different effects for the shoulder mounted railgun. And Noob, you were saying it looked like it was a 6-second charge and fire time.
So I counted it, like, again, that's just from the video. It's about 6 seconds. It builds. And because I can't see how they're manipulating it. So Battlefield has the Roche, which is a crazy overpowered sniper rifle. And it's a Gauss gun. And in that gun, you commit to firing. And at the end of its charge cycle, it's firing whether you're aiming on or not. So what you need to do is push the button and then continue to track. It's a very, very skill-based game, and those guys that put the time into it get it. So there was 2 animations we saw. One of them was a build and a fire, and then the second one was a build and then it almost looked like it snuffed out. So if you were charging too long and didn't fire, would it overcharge and then need a cooldown period? Is what it looked like they're trying to do. So it gives you a little window where you can fire. So do you need 2 buttons, one to charge and then fire, or is it hold down and then you release to fire? This is the question that I had. And again, it doesn't, I'm sure it'll be fine when it comes out and we'll deal with it and we'll play with it and make it good and everything. I'm just curious to see how CIG envisioned that weapon being deployed.
Right.
Probably like the sniper rifle.
Well, so you can just go POW, but there's a charge time.
Yeah,
right?
but the POW time is a lot less damage.
Right? So
or maybe it's a lot less distance or whatever.
So then the thing is, like, you charge and charge and charge, and when it releases, like a jack in the box, right? When it charges, does it just release when it's ready, forcing you to track?
It's a static amount of damage.
Right.
I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
So, like, if I push and hold, and then it charges, and then I release and it fires, that's one way. If I push and hold, and when it's fully charged, it releases.
Just fires, yeah.
Yeah, so they're all different game mechanics, and it's important for balance, because if you have something that can vanish a person in one shot, you want it to be
hard. In my opinion, the sniper rifle needs work with that as well, because it is like you just run around with it fully charged, ready to go, and you can just ping people.
Yeah.
Either that charge needs to be longer, for example, with that weapon, or it needs to see some sort of rework, because right now the way that but that's a great example.
You're watching right now, if you watch that video, the one that shoots immediately after that, there's another animation, which is that it builds and builds and then fizzes out. And that's what I'm saying, like, that was 9 seconds, maybe between 6 seconds and 9 seconds you have to take the shot, and if you hold it too long, you lose it.
And it has that sort of fizzle out, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Or you've wasted a shot.
Yeah, I really like that idea as well.
Yeah.
Where it sort of flamed out a little bit out of the sides, and it's like, you've been holding it for too long. You need to have your shot in sight instead of running around with it fully loaded,
fully charged,
ready to come around the corner and blast somebody in the face.
It would defeat the point of it having a charge time if you could just charge it.
And that's what that's what the sniper rifle is right now.
Yeah,
that's exactly what that is. It's just hold.
The idea of being in a tumbrel on the recon model doing scans and then seeing a load of dots that keep on going pew, 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 keep on getting like really big and really small again.
Yeah,
it's people firing their railguns.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be energy release.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely should ping up on the map. If you fire that sucker, you should be glowing red on the map for 30 seconds.
That's the sort of stuff that I'm really looking forward to in the game. I love the positioning. I love radars. I love scanning. I love discovery. Well, yeah.
And then they also showed the weapon impacts on different planetary surfaces, whether it was the desert or the ice surfaces. And they said that the impacts are going to be the same for both ballistic and laser rifles, which I thought they would have been a little bit different, right? But I would have thought that the lasers would have burnt and maybe had some more smoke, and the ballistics maybe would have had more of that little explosion thing.
But what we're looking at right now isn't actually leaving a decal to use
Right. Well,
term,
that was a
on
whole
the
other
ground.
thing. That was another
Yeah.
thing. Is
So,
there's-
and that doesn't mean that it's not coming. That just means that they're at a point where they're working on the effect of the kick up. And then maybe just like the footprint, you shoot, go bang, 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 and it'll leave like little burn marks
what
on
is
the
it
ground.
where when you have a decal but it looks 3D? Is that
Well,
is
there's
that tessellation?
there's actual
something else
deformation. So a
No.
deformation-
Yeah, there's actual deformation of
Yeah.
physical. You don't want that. That's too
resource
heavy.
intensive.
But there's a type of decal that makes it look,
looks
no matter
down.
from where you are, it looks 3D.
Okay.
And it reflects light and stuff like that, like it is 3D. And so I'm
I don't know what
wondering.
it's called, but I know what you mean. And that could be just like exactly like the footprint. You know,
Yeah.
like the decal engine just goes bang, bang, bang. Here's your bullet impacts, and after a period of time, it disappears. Or some guy drives over it, it disappears. You know, like signs of life, we call that, right? Like that's
I guess it's like when you see
that would be so abused
the
because people are going to be drawing
different
like all kinds
textures
of
or bump
naughty,
mapping,
naughty
maybe?
things. Can you imagine?
Bump mapping is an older technique which is still used, which is very good for exactly what
Yeah,
the things.
that gives
CIG
depth
have
without
talked
having to
about-
create the actual.
CIG have talked about their occlusion methods and their ways of depth and lots of other stuff in their video, which I will try and dig up while we're talking about it.
How many screen captures do you think we'll see of people who try to draw stuff in footprints? Like their name or something worse on a planet?
Giant dicks.
It's going to be
Dicks.
giant dicks.
Yeah.
It'll be hundreds of
3.0.
giant dicks. It'd be like, oh, look
Yeah,
at
I
this
mean,
persistent dick.
you could just park ships in that shape, or you could put bodies in that shape, or you could.
It
do
will happen.
cargo in that shape. Benny's machines.
You're gonna see
Benny's
loads
is the
of
most
fucking
appropriate.
clickbait articles with Star Citizen is the most crowd-funded game ever.
That
and it's
has
got the
dicks
most
in it.
persistent dicks.
Yeah.
Persistent dicks.
Persistent dicks.
Oh my god. Sorry for starting that one.
Well, it's
It's
gonna
all-
happen. You know it is.
all good.
Don't
Drawn
forget
big
to get your
Benny's
questions in.
machines.
Yeah,
Guys.
so just another reminder, if you have any questions, !1 question in chat. Is there anything in this bottom part here, Board? I know you put these in here. That is important, or can we skip this and go right into questions?
They talked about ship persistence in at the end of the ATV.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just reiterated that when you log in,
If you're out of ammo,
maybe
if you're out of
when you're down-
missiles, it's exactly the same. If you're
Yeah, but
missing a wing, you're missing a wing.
but when you log, you'll be where your ship was, so you can just log out where the fuck ever you want. And
Now,
cargo's-
does that
well.
also count to if you stole a ship and you logged out somewhere, that when you log back in, you have that stolen ship?
So they were literally talking about theft in it being its own special beast in the PC Gamer article. And they didn't 100% answer it, but it sounds like yes. It sounds like if you steal a ship, it will persist with you when you log out. Because there is a clear definition between legal ownership and physical ownership, which they have now defined.
Right.
And you can physically own something by literally nicking it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
And that's
wondering, is
cargo as well.
if that physical ownership persists as well.
Yeah, and then the guy
Should do.
logs out and the ship vanishes, just like it does now. Because right now, if you log out, your ship vanishes and the guy is left stranded wherever. So with
Or if you
persistence,
respawn that
guy's-
ship or whatever, it vanishes.
right? So if,
So it
exactly,
shouldn't do that
it's
now.
hypothetical. You log out or respawn the ship, it would have to reset, right? Because then the
But
person
no,
would-
that would be that.
No,
like,
insurance.
They don't want
There's
that.
insurance claims.
There's insurance claims,
Well, I
so
know-
you'd be
I know
getting
they
a
don't
new
want that.
ship. So it should keep both ships in game then.
Yes.
At that point.
Quite genuinely, it should, and it should.
And
So
then the guy
in
who
before-
stole the ship
Yeah.
would
he has
own it,
Yeah.
and then he could log out and log back in and
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
it, or have
Yeah.
it.
But when that ship gets destroyed from him, he can't,
can't
make an
replace
insurance
it.
Of
claim.
course, because it's not his illegal
Right.
ship.
Yes.
Okay,
Like-
that
like-
makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the same with cargo. If you've stolen cargo, that stolen cargo
But-
will persist in your cargo hold even
So-
if you log out.
Essentially, you could have
Okay.
someone like myself, where I've earned millions of UEC and I have nothing to spend it. No, really, earn millions of
Yes,
UEC.
Okay.
When, a legitimate
right.
way. Just hear me out here. And then I could just let people, if nobody on the server has a Caterpillar, I could be like, okay, here, have a Caterpillar. Take it. I'll just
Yeah,
go buy a new
freebie.
one. Take this one, I'll go buy a new one. And so I could potentially cause the spawn of 24 Caterpillars.
I like it.
right? Because everybody on
people
that
are gonna
server
wanna
can
hang out with
own
you.
one.
There's still going to be, number one, a time involved, even if you get a quicker time. Like
Right.
the thing.
Well, I
There still
think
might be a minute
I
or
still
2
think
minutes.
is it not going to work the same way it works now, where it's a time and a cost?
No.
No?
It's gonna be times and costs, and they're all gonna count down and everything still. But there's still gonna be, even if you go expedite, it
Yeah.
might be almost instantly for an Aurora, but it could be a minute for your Caterpillar.
Okay. Still,
Every time you claim
if it takes
that,
and it
Gets
goes
longer.
up
a lot
too.
more, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there will
So
be
there's still-
things in
can still probably do it
position to
20
do
times.
that.
Yeah.
But if you get enough UEC, you can still attempt to
but-
do it.
It's supposed to curb the person's. It's supposed to make you want to not do what you're talking about.
Right. So
No,
the
but-
systems are in place for it to
Yeah.
not to discourage
Want.
that, but
Yeah.
you should still be able to do it, is what I'm saying. So if you have enough UEC to do it, then you should be
million.
able to do it. And I'll be curious to try and test those things out by seeing,
that's
get
exactly what
those
we should be
get
testing
those
as well.
24 ships, that I've spawned in of the pirate Caterpillar. I should be able to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you as well. That's the sort of stuff.
I
that we
just
should
need
be
the people to take physical ownership of them.
testing. Steal
and
my
just go,
ship,
yeah,
please.
here, steal my ship, please. Go fly somewhere, don't get it blown up.
It's like the
And
reverse
go and hang
pirate.
out. Yeah.
You're like
well,
a reverse pirate.
the insurance system in general is very
'Cause I
important
think-
to this game.
Because I think what will happen is that ship won't be stolen until you put in an insurance claim. So you can effectively share your ship freely with your crewmen.
And then all of those
friends.
people would
Mm-hmm.
own a Caterpillar ship as long as they didn't get it blown up
Yeah,
for the
but
entirety of that they
if y-
play.
But if you report it as stolen, effectively by claiming on it,
Mm-hmm.
then they might be shot on sight when flying it.
Right, but I wonder if
That's
there's
security.
going to be a system in place where, like Security Post Korea, where you can get rid of that.
Possibly, quite possibly.
We don't
Pay
know.
fines, whatever.
But that would be amazing, right? And then potentially you could give away more than 24 of those ships. You could just give away infinite as long as you have
I
the
think
UEC to
the
back it up.
the idea behind the ship stuff, I'm not sure how in depth this is.
Uh-huh.
It's that the ID and the VIN number of the ship is what's hot. So
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't be able to get rid of that at Korea, but you might be able to go to a chop shop to get it cleaned or
Yeah,
whatever.
and I understand Matt Sherman says you could get claim
Yeah.
denied for perpetuating insurance fraud.
Yeah.
Is that it? If that's in right away, then sure. But this is the thing. This is something that unless if that's in, then tell us. So then we don't go out of our way to try and test that.
Yeah. So I've never seen a game that has had an exploit that the developers haven't tried to fix somehow. Whether
Right,
it be
but
for- you know-
will it be in the first iteration? Is all I'm saying.
And during alpha, I will be testing the fuck out of it.
Can you
Yeah,
you
you
fuck
have
up?
to, of
This
course.
is the other thing too.
we're
That
doing.
also leaves the potential, if there is no sort of safeguard, like after so many, it's insurance fraud and it just won't
Mm-hmm.
let you anymore. And then in which case, does that mean that you can never get that ship again, or does that mean that you have to wait just a longer period of time? Because you can't take away ships from people where they
No.
where they purchase them with money. You're not going to be able
Well,
to
you
do
could.
that.
You could if it was insurance fraud and they were literally trying.
Not
to,
during the testing.
not during
you can.
testing. No.
No.
When full release happens, if people are trying to exploit the
Right,
system
and even
specifically
then,
for gain.
So even then, they would need to probably change any TOS stuff with that.
So yeah, by
But-
the time it goes live, I imagine that we will have created enough insurance fraud that people have come up with saucy ways to make sure that the capability isn't there.
Right.
Or some game mechanic comes in and like fixes or banhams the shit out of it, so that because I still don't. I've thought about it. I mean, we've all thought about it. How can we exploit the insurance system, right? Because it's going to take you 5 hours to make $50 over there, but it's going to take you, oh, hey, meet me at this place and steal my ship and get 500,000, and it doesn't matter because I've got lifetime insurance. People are going to do that.
Yeah.
No matter if it like.
I'm-
And there's going to be ways
Holy
around getting caught doing that.
course.
as well.
I'm very interested in seeing how CIG will see it once
Yeah.
they've fully fleshed out the mechanic. Do they see
Yeah.
it as an exploit? Do they see it as a mechanic?
But
Do they
my-
see it as something totally in game and it's totally fine for players to do? Do they just deal with it out of game? Stuff like that. I'm really interested.
My concern with what the whole situation that I gave wasn't for when the game is out. Mine is for when we have 3.0, and you have those
Okay.
people
Test the fuck
that,
out of it.
yeah, once it's tested out, and we've found it, and sure, and people have done it. But then there will be people that will continue to do that, and if that creates issues with the databases or things like that, where you have just these, like you remember before when you could shoot at those pillars and gain UEC, right? Remember at
do.
Korea?
Yeah.
So if maybe there's something that comes
I think
in
that
where
was a back door.
right.
Like-
So right. So where you
But that's
come
what
in,
the wipe's for.
but
right?
this is what I'm saying though. If there's a way for you to gain a lot of UEC really quickly, whether it be through a buggy mission type or something, right? Maybe it's not even it's not on purpose and it just hasn't been found out. That's why the testing's there for. And then you're able to do these infinite ships and whatever. Is there a possibility that I can overload a database, or is that stuff so structurally sound that it's not going to crash the game for everybody? Or like once again, before there's a thing that if you turned off your engines and quantumed to somewhere, it would just shut down the entire server.
The server, yeah. And then they immediately removed your ability to turn off the engine so that people couldn't do it.
Right.
So
I
that's
guess
what I'm saying.
yeah, they could bring in those changes immediately. I guess.
So I
They would.
like where you're going with it. I really like the whole point of us playing the game is to do exactly what you're talking about and find ways to break it, and then find ways, creative ways,
or to get
that
around
are
things or whatever.
in
yeah.
game, right? To exploit the word is perfect. To find an exploit within the universe, and then try to find a way to make it not just that you can't do it, but you can't do it because of some reason in game, right? Like the insurance company will do this, or they'll send the police after you, or some other thing, so that you don't break the immersion and lose the coolness of the game, right?
Look how dumb your mechanic is. Lol, lol, lol. I broke it.
Right. Questions. Don't forget.
But
Exclamation questions.
we're gonna jump over to questions right now, unless there's anything else that you think we absolutely need to talk about on this list. This thing here, I don't think we need to.
No, I mean that'll come.
Everybody
out when it comes
knows
out.
the cargo and persistence, and we've talked about that.
Yeah, we just talked about that, yeah.
Mic drop.
And really quickly, I'm going to talk about the PC Gamer article, and there was the one thing in there that really stood out was the movement with the mouse wheel, which I think is awesome, and I'm really looking forward to. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, that we have no idea that's coming in, and they don't really talk about it, and they're like, oh yeah, we added this. And it changes the way you play, right? Especially with stamina coming in.
So
Yep.
for people that don't know, you can use the mouse wheel to effectively change from your walk to jog to run.
So
Down again. It's really useful.
basically if you've ever played with a controller in Star Citizen, you have all of that functionality with the joystick. Yeah, you have that functionality with how far you push the joystick. Now you'll be able to have that functionality with your mouse wheel, which is very cool. Cool. All right, let's jump into these. We do have a fair amount of questions. Looks like we
Nice.
have 20 something. So let's
Lightning round them. Lightning round.
lightning round them. Okay, here we go. Araka says, what do you think of the chances of CIG pulling a rabbit out of the hat and giving us Crusader or truck stops in 3.0? Or just adding something in the mix? Love the show. Thank you for all you do. Unlikely at this point.
They might put some extra special stuff in that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Truck stops and stuff like that. They
Like,
probably would have told
nothing
us.
really big like that, yeah. Next question is from Purple Cow. I wanted to earn all my ships in game, but I keep getting tempted to buy them now. Is waiting worth it, or does the merit of getting a ship now make up for lost game time?
Wait.
That's what the game is
have to
for.
ask that
The
question.
game is earning the ships. That is the
Yeah.
game essentially.
And there's
you
going to be
have to
so many other
ask.
people.
Don't.
There's going to be so many other people in your possibly in your org that have the ship that you want anyways.
Yeah.
That you may not even need to go buy it. You could just go ask him to pimp his ride out to you.
A lot of people are going to be missing out on gameplay by skipping some ships, but
Yeah.
never. But if you ever have to say, should I wait? Always wait.
Next question's from Bevols84. What do you think will be at Gamescom besides 3.0? Do you think we'll see some sort of update for Squadron 42?
Maybe it's.
I think Squadron 42 will be
traditionally-
CitizenCon.
It's traditionally. There's stuff that they can show for Squadron 42.
I think we'll see
hopefully
maybe
it's-
City Tech or more Planet Tech.
That'd be cool.
Uh,
Big update
new
to the roadmap
biomes.
of the game.
new
I want to see
biomes
an
or
updated
something?
roadmap.
Yeah.
Farming?
Well,
Yeah, maybe.
we'll
Maybe
see
any of
Farming
those
Simulator
new
at
tech.
Gamescom.
Yeah.
Mining, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Citizen
Yeah.
Shenanigans says, "Do you think we'll be able to build bases in 3.0?"
No,
Nope. Outposts will be there. You'll be able to go and camp them.
it's
But
possible that we might see some early base building in 3.1 of some description.
Yeah, there's a difference
Aaron
of
implied it
building
heavily.
and squatting, though. Like, right?
yeah,
Like
but
moving,
you won't be able to
manipulating the
build.
buildings. No.
Next question from Citizen Shenanigans again. Will you be able to buy ships in-game currency in 3.0? I hope
Probably
so,
not.
but unlikely. Kandaryu says,
Soon after.
"Do you think they may try to get the Vulcan renderer in place before Squadron 42's release?"
Mm.
I don't
Is it-
know.
I don't know either.
I would
You
hope
would
so.
you would think that they would want all of that stuff in. You wouldn't want to
Well,
have
that's
that stuff
isn't that
after the
built?
fact.
Isn't that automatically built into the Lumberyard engine? Isn't that part of the engine that the API is there already?
Okay,
Or-
so all of the new Lumberyard stuff,
Or is it more like a library that you have to add it?
they pick and choose. They cherry pick
Okay.
into it. They are literally moving entirely away from DirectX, other rendering techniques, to just Vulkan. That's the plan, and that will take a little bit of focus before the game's released. So that might be the last stage of Squadron 42 before release. Polish, drivers, Vulkan.
Isn't Vulkan just another form of OpenGL?
It
It's
effectively
the same
is, yes.
thing, I think, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, so it's not the end of the
evolution.
world if you don't have DirectX. It's your stuff's still going to work. It just may not work with the same fidelity. Get your drinks ready, or
Well,
the efficiency,
it's just,
right?
or no, it's just done in a different way. That's all.
Okay.
So the plan, I'm thinking about it, they almost certainly will have it ready for Squadron 40 because they want it to support multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Semi-important for the release. So probably.
Next question's from Repo Irtua.
Wow.
Butcher your name. Was Lumberyard CryEngine a good decision to go, or should CIG build a new engine themselves? Nope.
Too late now. Next question.
engine.
Selvin. Question to Bored and Noob. Soros already answered it before. Do you think we will get the Reclaimer in 3.0?
No. Pretty much
No.
said no as well.
Yeah.
In fact, Disco Lando put out a statement
It's not
about it saying
on.
no.
It's not on the schedule report. It's nowhere. It's not even a blip on the radar.
Yeah. But
So
it is
they-
being worked
they've got
on.
Yeah.
They've got to finish 3 rooms, and then it goes into damage states, then it goes into polish, and then it goes
And
into
then it
derelict.
goes into derelict. Yeah. Don't forget that new leg
That
of
new stage, yeah, indeed. I'll take your
Magic,
video, noob.
Magic Fingers says, with how 3.0 is being the supposed god patch, do you agree that delays are best, even if it disappoints people like us who follow the game closely, especially considering the patch will be seen by a larger community and could essentially make or break interest from the casual audience?
To a point.
It's Jesus patch, not God patch, and also it's a whole barrel, a different barrel of fish. I mean, if you're interested in Star Citizen, you're still going to fucking be interested.
This is
whatever happens, if there's
where
a
the
million
game
delays, so-
actually becomes more of a game, right? With the persistence and all of that
Tangible
other stuff,
gameplay,
instead of like
yes.
just being like a one-off. You jump in, it's like Pong, right? You go in, you play, you get your score, you
From
leave, and you start
2.0
over fresh again.
From 2.0 to date, all we've had is an example of what they're trying to do, and it has been basically a
With
tech
some of
demo.
their systems, yeah.
Yes, and then 3.0 is the first time we've actually had real. Well, we will have real tangible gameplay, and it is literally the skeleton of the game to come.
So I have friends who've had the game since 2014 who haven't played at all, but they want to play now. So hopefully that answers the question. I do think it's important. Obviously, it's important, and it's important to get it right and all of that stuff. But to a point, right? Like there's holding something back. It is still an alpha, and people who watch it will still just say, oh, even if they say it's a piece of shit, those people aren't going to play it anyways. Because, it's never going to live up to that person's expectation. It's like, oh, look at how buggy it is. The guy's moonwalking. He's clipping through buildings, so the haters are going to hate. There comes a time where unless when you jump in your ship, it crashes the server, missing texture and buggy this, we've been dealing with that since 2013 anyways. So I mean, that's why I say to a point. Anyways, hopefully I didn't take up too much time on that one.
Yeah, no, it's all good. From Roadkill. One of the most unique things about Star Citizen is its open development and its relationship with the community. What is your favorite feature that was created or influenced by this relationship? For me, there's been a few things that I've directly impacted. The music is a big one. So, like all that sort of retro style music was from when I played that on the playlist. But I've also seen direct influence on like Security Post Korea with the door locks and all of that.
I mean,
stuff.
you've had direct influence by getting alcohol and other tangible reasons to be in Korea.
Yeah.
Like, so, and that was like literally someone watching your stream, chatting to you, and then putting it in the game. That was cool.
There's been a lot of things where I've had direct influence. So I don't know if I could pick just one, but there's the top three right off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's other ones that we may not know.
I mean, the Cutlass Black is a massive example of that, obviously.
Yeah, that's one where the whole community has sort of come together, and
so we should see that with all mechanics. Is the idea?
Every once in a while, a person gets into chat and says, Noobifier, what do you think about this? And it's either, yeah, that's great, but it basically comes down to almost a bullshit topic, like some theory craft or whatever. And then every once in a while, you get this really, really fantastic idea, and those usually get fleshed out. I give a person credit, and then I would like to think that somehow that has a trickle-on effect for maybe we'll see it in the future and that type of thing.
I imagine like Matt Sherman, because we know he's here, or if any of the other CIG guys are lurking in the background, just furiously scribbling down ideas and just be like, no, we're not doing that. But like, I'm going to bring this up later.
But that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. But don't say that sounds good. Yeah. Then they're just furiously going. Cataphor says, what ship in development or in concept do you look forward to most? Ships for your own use, so not capital ships.
Carrick.
I mean, it's pretty big still. Carrick's almost a capital ship to me.
For personal use, though.
Oh.
I guess you could say Carrick, sure. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, I think the Prospector is going to be one of the more important industry ships that comes out in the nearer future. I mean, it's supposed to be flight ready, if I'm not mistaken, in 3.0. And then, of course, the mining mechanics are later in 3.1. So in the near future, I do think that the Prospector is one that will be fairly significant for the game.
Definitely. I mean, I love the Reclaimer, but the Reclaimer's fucking huge. Well. Yeah.
I just want to grab stuff in the air and like take someone's ship while they're in it. It's like,
I don't know if the smaller ships, but I like the most.
It's not a fighter, is it? For you, BoredGamer?
Probably the Sentinel is probably my most exciting smaller ship for me. I like E-War. I like the idea.
Yeah, and the tracker by default, same kind of.
Well, Terrapin's the other small one I like.
For me, it's not a ship, and that might confuse people a little bit. It's it's the modules for the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar, I have all the ships I'm looking forward to most.
So many possibilities.
And I'm really excited to see the concepts for the Caterpillar. Hey Matt, what's up? So yeah, and that's my big thing. So I have the ship already, but I don't at the same time.
It's just a cargo. It's a cargo sled right now.
It's just a
shell
of what it's a shell of what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Moving forward, Zorky. Since the 3.0 image of the Gladius attacking some rovers by Sandy Gardner was posted, and I can post a image for this here. I've seen quite some discussion about this potentially being problematic, and some people, for example, calling for shields to not function in atmosphere to balance it out. The problematic part being the fear that vehicles are pointless if a light fighter can just swoop down and pick them off. What are your thoughts on these aspects on air-to-ground combat for 3.0? And especially with the fact that we do have an AA vehicle coming in, but it's not in yet.
Teamwork.
There's going to be static installations. There is going to be...
Yeah, there will be ground turrets. We know that.
Railguns. I am now thinking, I was thinking about the other day, what would I put in? I'd put statics, I'd put shield disruptors in. You literally have vehicles on the ground, and you have static installations which disrupt shields close to them.
Mm-hmm.
You go, well, I've got
What's
to take
wrong
those
with
out first.
close air support? Like if you're at your org and they were doing something on the ground, what's to stop you from putting a Saber in the sky or a Vanguard, flying just covering? Again, it's a teamwork game. It's an MMO. I'm not saying go.
Do we know? We
AI.
also don't know the speed. I imagine the speed of ships in the air is going to be faster than the rovers on the ground. But,
yeah.
I'm assuming there's also going to be like radar jammers and stuff, which make ships a lot harder to use on the ground.
But
pretty
in
much need to
3.0
see it.
specifically, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's going to be a troll fest.
Yeah,
I actually, legitimately, I think
it's
going
going
to
be the new Olisar landing pads.
Camping pads, yeah. It's going to suck, and people are going to get pissed off and salty and everything like that, and it's a thing. I fully expect it, and there's only one way to fix it, and that's to go get your own ship and kill the guy. And that sucks, because I don't expect there'll be any expanded legal system. Like whoever shoots first is the bad guy. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, and but I don't think it's going to impact on anything that's super important. Like you're not going to lose your pledge or something over it. It'll just piss you off a little bit, and then you can choose to log back in and get even, or take a break and come back in a different server or something.
Next question's from Green Fox Leader. Not sure if you covered this before questions, but what do you guys think of the goofiness the Star Citizen community team seems to be bringing back in the recent Matt Sherman Citizen of the Stars episode? Seems reminiscent of their old style, giving more candid info.
It's part of the community. The community is quirky like that, and that's part of the charm. You can tell that everyone's trying to find their way, and I'm not saying that people aren't professional, but you can definitely tell that Around the Verse is made in house, and it's part of the charm. It's part of what I like about it.
Yep.
They've relaxed into it now, certainly.
Yeah.
It's good. That's good. That's a good thing.
Citizen Shenanigans says a recent lore post this week mentions the 600i. Do you think the 600i will be the next concept ship?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've talked
what
about
it is.
it'll be
Connie
a
size
Connie size
800.
Mm-hmm.
Gamescom. Sell it at Gamescom.
It may. I feel like I could possibly carry an M50. Maybe not. I'm just thinking about yachts and how yachts work. It's like
The
a
890
luxury
definitely.
ship. Or
So
like
the
even the
890 comes
RVs.
with a 85X.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. GM Warlord says, if CIG did sell ad space in game, what products would you not be happy with them being advertised? Anything that doesn't fit in the lore.
Sex toys?
I'll be fine with sex toys. Dragon dildos, fine. You want to advertise them? Go fucking crazy, mate.
Oh, God.
I mean, anything that's sensible, not to. Probably wouldn't want them advertising cigarettes. Probably wouldn't want them advertising, just stupid shit.
Anything you wouldn't want to see in real life, you shouldn't necessarily want to see in game. How's that?
True Coverage says, if you're flying in atmosphere and keep flying straight, will you continue to fly level across the planet moon, or will you gradually gain altitude as the planet curves, thus making you end up in space over time? You've been watching way too many flat Earth documentaries. I was actually watching one the other day because I like laughing at them, and one of the things were like, oh, planes don't have to adjust altitude, so therefore they're flat. Otherwise, they would just continue flying right off the surface.
They fly off the air. They just go, mate.
They just go out into space. But in terms of this acts maybe a little bit differently. I don't know the real technicalities of how gravity works in game, if it's like real life. So yeah, I don't know. I think that
it's all thruster based though. Like you can't. It's not like we're talking about being able to fly in an atmosphere and having the wings have an effect on the flight model.
Yeah.
But if you stop your Hornet in the middle of somewhere, it's not going to just collapse and fall to the
sky.
Right.
You don't want to have to keep on pitching down either. So
it's I don't think it'd be noticeable either with the size.
No, you'd be
of
flying.
things.
It's okay. So how do fighter pilots do it? They're constantly making micro adjustments, and I think that it would be the
same
thing.
as when you're driving, even right? When you drive straight, your wheel isn't straight. You're always making micro.
You don't even think about it. You just do it. Mm-hmm. So the idea of let's say going AFK on autopilot and coming back and your ship is now out of atmosphere. I think that
autopilot would be different though, wouldn't it?
Well, not autopilot. I mean just dumbfire. I mean just like
cruise control
as the crow flies. I do think that you should come back and your ship should be in pieces or in space somewhere.
But yeah,
Like,
you should. This should be fine. It's. I think it's going to be so minuscule that you wouldn't notice even if you were making micro adjustments or whatever.
I think if we're in the physics grid of the planet,
Mm-hmm.
then we are following the curve.
Okay.
That's what my gut
Yeah,
tells me.
this is something you're gonna have to test, but that also gives it away true coverage that you're a flat earther. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. LTG Solo. If I'm not mistaken, rendered texture tech may allow players to broadcast video of their characters in the Star Citizen universe. Yes. If CIG decides to allow it, would you guys do an in-game redacted podcast? We've talked about it. A good example of that is, for example, the if you can get into the control towers where you request landing and they pop up on your screen. If you can stand behind the guy in the control tower, then you should show up on the screen of whoever's coming in to land behind that guy, because that's what render to texture is. So it should be technically possible. I would be nice to set it up. We don't have like the camera assets where you can set up cameras and have our characters in there. But if they do the things that they said they want to do, where your in-game voice changes your mouth and stuff like that, and has all of that stuff, it's something we could do for fun later on.
Yeah, what's the Reliant that does that? The Sen? Which one has
the Mako, I think.
The Mako. So it's got all the telemetry and the news fan. So a portable version of whatever the document.
Well, what I was saying, instead of having a shoulder-mounted railgun, they can make these shoulder-mounted cameras.
Yeah.
So
and it streams for whoever wants to watch you. Probably nobody, but in my case,
people
nobody.
Could switch to that channel and watch it on their screen. Which would be cool.
What Google is doing. No.
Well,
and the text already. The thing is the text already in there, so it's not like it would cost them anything to build onto that.
And Amazon, they own Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of integration makes sense.
Perfect.
Eric.
Complete.
Hey all, and sorry Source for the bad. Oh, don't worry about that. My question is, does CIG have a plan already for market in Star Citizen for modded components? I'm curious if they're going to give a singular market for modded and unmodded components, or if there'll be a different market method for finding them. We still don't really know how modded components are going to work. That's something they haven't touched on in quite a while. Right? Remember they said you're going to be able to overclock things and mod it?
It's
crafting.
I imagine
it's going to be in the future. In the future, they're not thinking about it.
I imagine that if you're selling to a vendor or something, then yes, the price will stay the same across the board. But I think that that's where that player versus the player-to-player economy is worth more, right? So you're going to want to seek out those people that can overclock something or that are able to build something then you can buy better or have to take a chance on.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would buy pre-modded components.
Yeah. Tom Trustworthy says, when we one day get the Delta Patcher, which is with 3.0, do you really think we will get a good use of it? Getting small patches weekly or even more often? Or will we still have to wait for everything to be as polished and all that before we get updates?
We want CIG
yes and no.
to come up with a statement of exactly how they intend to use the Delta Patch.
Right.
And they
and
need to tell us.
How I think they would do it would be as things get completed in terms of assets or little features here and there, that they just go in with that week or bi-weekly patch. I still think that they're not going to be patching in a ship that's just hangar ready. They're not going to do that anymore.
No. What I would like to see it from
if a ship's ready before a major patch, they'll just put it in.
What I want to see on it is something like, Mark does Bug Smashers, and he rewrites a section of code that fixes something that is actually globally hurting this particular patch. Something that made it through Evocati, through PTU. Even weapon balance, they can iterate on weapon balance even in between patches. So those types of things I would love to see. Or they, like you say, add a new gun. Even though it's 3.0, here's a new gun to play with. Tell us what you think. That type of thing is where I think the real money is going to be made on that Delta Patcher. Not necessarily that we're going to get faster development or anything like that. Just if they do give us something and it breaks something badly, then they can almost, instead of recalling it, they can try to fix it and then patch again.
Yes.
Sorry. Obvious.
Tom Trustworthy says, oh, that was the question I just asked. Hang on. Our next question is from Zoldus. And he says, if you could magically get a full feature complete planet landing zone in 3.0, which would it be? Relay already picked Earth and Captain Sable picked Terra. So those already taken. What would it be for Redacted? Spider. Would be
Micro?
baller.
Fuck me.
Spider's
Are we talking real?
Imaginary. I always play imaginary games.
I know.
Pick the one you want the most. I'm not fucking.
Well,
knowing
Spider's the one
this.
that's made out of like ship hulls and shit. And it's like it's in Catholic.
Microtech.
Yeah. Microtech is a snow planet.
I thought which
Seems
one is
kinda boring.
the which one is the one that's nothing but city?
Oh, that's
ArcCorp.
ArcCorp.
Okay.
Yeah. ArcCorp would be cool. If ArcCorp with all fully enterable
Yeah,
buildings.
fully fleshed out.
Fully fleshed
I mean,
out ArcCorp would be
I
baller.
mean, I'm looking forward to seeing a landing zone in Odin 1, which is Coil, which is just a weird thing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Or
I mean,
there's
I
the
don't-
black hole. Does that count?
Yeah,
Welcome
but
to
there might be like a research post near it.
Yeah.
That would be
unheard
cool
of.
landing zone.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like anything that's sort of unique, like Spider or what you said, that coil
Yeah.
thing, or ArcCorp. ArcCorp will probably be the coolest one.
I just want to see it work. I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see it work too.
How they
I want to
figure
see it
out,
work
like-
the way I want it to work in my head. So
They've got
Yeah,
the cool
that's my answer.
I mean, they've got the cool craft world that I want to see. That almost bankrupt the UEE and stuff like that. Like, there's going to be a load of really cool things. Star says.
Next question's from Winlord00. Since the delay of 3.0 appears to pass Gamescom, do you think CIG will release early for PR reasons and cut features if they see blockers turning into a longer term issue? No, I think they would have done that already. Do you think they will change the habit of a lifetime and curtail potential bad press and loss of belief? Nope. I think they will just open up PTU earlier or something like that.
Yep, next.
Winlord also goes on to say they mentioned the ship shielding that it would adapt to the shape due to the ships being voxel based at a certain level. Do you think this tech will eventually come planet side? I'm thinking of the guy who did procedurally generated city who now works for CIG, destructible terrain and buildings eventually. Possibly buildings. I don't think they'll do destructible terrain.
because someone would just sit there launching nukes at the surface of the planet to
Until
make
it's
it
not
so
a
that
planet anymore.
right, and then what? Like magically we get a sandstorm that fills it in. You know, you'd basically give people the capability to ruin stuff for other people, and you'd see people that did nothing but that. So again, the control measure is just to get rid of it.
Yeah, and it's probably going to have regenerating nodes for minerals as well.
And we have
Yeah.
It's probably going to go the opposite route from destructible.
5 more
So-
questions.
Cool.
Bang Chow, was it mentioned if a person could get a permanent injury to senses? Like I get a loss of hearing in 1 year from an explosion blast, whatever. No, that's not going to be a thing.
You might see different like augments on
Like
you after you
limbs
save
and
scars.
stuff like that, but it's not going to make it so you can't hear or see or use things.
I'm blind and can't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
New
What a great game. It's black and silent. I want to play this. Eric ate my
Such high
pirate
fidelity.
says, what do you think is more likely? Different pirate organizations forming alliance in low sec space, or different pirate organizations declaring war over territory in low sec space?
Both.
And if too many pirate organizations start to unify in alliances, do you think CIG has incentive to try and break them up?
No, I
They
hope
could
that
just
does
send a
happen.
plague after them. Like they could just do just like anything. We've already talked about this, that if something is about to break the game, then they could just patch some scenario in that tries to neutralize it.
Yeah, I hope that they do stuff like
Yeah.
that occasionally. I hope there's
Yeah.
there's a reason for pirates to all band together, and I hope that they do some fucking cool stuff and really damn
Yeah.
shit, and then loads of players have to go and sort them out, and the NPCs have to sort them out. I want that. That sounds amazing.
Of course.
Henrik Chow says, could the mouse wheel movement be added to the ship's movement? It doesn't work the same because you don't need to, because it's built into the throttle. So it's
Use your mouse wheel for different things, though.
you can use.
Yeah, well, that's your player.
I wonder if
zoom
you
right
could
now.
rebind. I wonder if you could rebind it to that if you wanted to.
Probably.
You
You
could probably do
budget
that
it.
right now.
Yeah.
You could definitely do it with a third-party app.
Yeah.
No problem.
Lava Acoustic says, aside from ships, components, weapons, what other cool items do you think will be purchasable with UEC inside the Star Citizen universe? Land?
Territory.
Armor, bases.
Homes, like apartments and stuff they talked about. Yeah, like bases, or I mean, that's essentially what your hangar is as a base.
I mean, I'm all about industry. If I can get industry on the ground and in space.
Yeah. You could
like
buy
any MMO,
slaves.
Yeah,
You
like
could
any
buy
MMO, we're all about the trinkets, right? We're
workers.
all about the collection of the rare items. Like even Borderlands does it.
yeah.
So, I mean, I can actually see that being what people would get addicted to that. Like, I need to collect the whole set of something.
And our last question from Wombat. Do you think shops for ship engines, ship weapons are going to be in-game already? Or
Like at
basically
3.0?
ship components, yeah. Are they going to be at 3.0?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think ships will be, but I think the components will be.
I mean, we're still hoping for ships, but it's unlikely.
Fingers crossed,
components.
but I'm not holding my breath. I want to give a huge shout out to Zorky for helping out with the questions today. So thank you so much.
Zorky.
You guys,
Love
do me a
you.
favor, get some high fives in chat for the guy who last said in chat, prostitutes. So that being said, that wraps up this episode of Redacted. Thank you everybody for coming by. I will be continuing to stay on after this. Noobifier, what are you up to this week and where can people find you?
Okay, so I'm on YouTube, Twitter, pretty much everywhere, social media. I'm going to be, don't forget about the Starfarer pack that's going on right now. It's a giveaway on my channel.
Yep.
I'm going to be fleshing out a great suggestion that BoredGamer had, which goes with my job series, which is a video trying to talk about every single possible job in Star Citizen. Very, very point form though. Like these are the possibilities. Just kind of to give, yes, and current, so that people who are joining the game and veterans can actually not necessarily get excited, but see the potential of really what it means. I'm going to be working on some stuff with Spectrum, trying to figure out a way to make command level work well. I'm reviewing one of these things, which is a Wooting 1. It's an analog keyboard. So for all of you fighter jocks that rely on on-off buttons, this one is a proportionate button, which lets you control your thrusters proportionately with a keyboard. So it's like a game changer. And then some finishing touches on the studio, and of course waiting for 3.0.
There we go.
Please.
And where can people find you?
On YouTube and Twitter, Facebook as the Noobifier. So,
excellent.
Thank you.
And Bored, what about yourself? What are you up to?
Hey.
Where can people find you?
Find me at BoredGamer UK on all the social medias and the YouTubes and Twitches. We'll be doing obviously lots more Star Citizen content. It's the end of the month. We've got the UK report tomorrow. Always my favourite, ATV, and then I'll be doing a video on what CIG have been doing over the month and what we forward to coming soon. We'll talk a little bit probably about Gamescom. I've been checking out and really enjoying Fortnite, but also a game called Foxhole. Do I have permission to post?
What?
Well, no, that's
You could find out one way.
So that's a load of keys, which I do not want to post. Let's find out if I. No, I didn't.
Yeah, you do now. You do now. You do now. Go, 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 go.
It always makes me so happy.
It's identical. It's identical. It's identical. There you go. I put one at the end. So
No,
Foxhole
you didn't
is
need
this
to. I could.
really cool game that I want to try and get as many people as I can into. I think you might like it as well, Saurus. It's Planet Side-esque. It's from a top-down view. You control one guy, and it's Axis versus Allies. It's Germans versus the British, I think it is, or the Americans, on this one persistent shard. And it's just war, and you're trying to push them back and win. And when you win, it resets the server and goes, you've won. But it can take days or whatever. It's like a mixture of Rust and Planet Side and loads of different games together. And I was looking at it and watching loads of streams of it and going, this is really fucking awesome.
Fair enough.
Check it out. It looks really cool.
I'm always looking
lots
for
of Star
new
stuff.
good games.
Yeah, I think I've got some keys as well, so I'll chat to you about that in a bit.
Awesome.
Shiny.
But, yeah, check me out on the YouTubes, guys, and I'll be streaming tomorrow. I'll probably be streaming some Star Citizen and Foxhole tomorrow.
Awesome.
What about you, Source? What are you up
For myself, there's a couple things coming up. It's my birthday on Monday. I'm going to be streaming after this. I think I might go camping this weekend. Might be IRL streaming that. Later tonight we have Dungeons and Dragons, and I also have a giveaway possibly right after this of a Nox from an anonymous donor. So huge shout out for that. You can find me on twitch.tv/WTFOSAURUS and on twitter.com/WTFOSAURUS. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us for another Redacted. I will be right back. I'm going to go update my dog. I'm going to go say hi to my dog and make sure she's all fed and ready to go, and I will be back in a moment here. So don't go away, because you're going to miss some really important things. I don't know what those important things are yet, but you're going to miss them, and you don't listen. It's not going to be a good thing for anybody. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Take care, guys. And see ya later.
Thanks for having me.
I love you, dude. Love you so much.